Chapter 483. The three demon saints joined forces. The moment they attacked, their power was earth-shattering. Although Xiang held the ancient bronze sword, he had no right to resist. Sigh! A sigh seemed to have traveled through time, and went straight into the depths of everyone's hearts. However, whether it was Xiang, the ghost saint, or even Shenhong and the others, when they heard this sigh, their expressions changed drastically as if they had heard something terrifying. Boom! After Qin Shujian and Tai Xuanzi exchanged a blow, they retreated. Immediately, both of them stopped at the same time. At this moment, in Qin Shujian's line of sight, the yellow clouds above the imperial city were vast and mighty, and there seemed to be a true dragon's roar. This scene forced him to activate his Dharma eye to take a look. He saw that the prostrating true dragon had already opened its eyes and was soaring in the sky. Dragon roars came out of its mouth, shaking the heavens and earth. As for the auspicious beasts of the various prefectures, they were all prostrating on the ground, their bodies trembling incessantly. A boundless mighty force descended from the sky. Qin Shujian took a step back but did not suffer any injuries. After breaking through to the diviner realm, the backlash from spying on the great Zhao nation's destiny was not that serious anymore. However, although the backlash was not that serious, the shock that Qin Shujian felt was more intense than the previous two times. The original destiny of the great Zhao nation was in a state of deep sleep. Now, the destiny of the great Zhao nation had completely recovered. What did this mean? A terrifying thought emerged in Qin Shujian's mind. Impossible! The system's notification did indeed show that the human emperor was dead. Could the system's notification be wrong? For a moment, Qin Shujian was a little confused. If the system's information was wrong, then he could not easily believe the notifications in many aspects in the future. Pretending to be mysterious, kill! After the ghost saint recovered from his shock, his attacks did not stop at all as his energy blasted toward Xiang. At this moment, the sky collapsed. A hand reached out from the shattered void and easily crushed the energy. Then, it grabbed the ghost saint in its hand, and his body instantly collapsed. Xiangtian, you can't kill me! The ghost saint roared madly. His body suddenly turned into a huge 9-headed demonic beast. He forcibly broke through the restraints of the palm and flew into the distance. However, not long after the ghost saint escaped, another palm came down from the void and smashed him into pieces. Ah! The ghost saint let out a miserable howl. The huge demonic beast fell to the ground, causing the mountains to crumble and the earth to crack. This scene, everyone was shocked once again. Everyone knew how strong the ghost saint was. He was a mighty expert. But now, he could not even withstand 2 palms before he was seriously injured. At this moment, all the battles on the battlefield stopped. Shenhong and the other vassals were now looking in the direction of the imperial city. Their bodies were cold and their faces were full of fear. The ghost sage's words caused them to be unable to remain calm. Xiangtian. The one who attacked was Xiangtian. Impossible. The human sovereign is dead. This can't be fake. Shenhong's face was pale. He could no longer maintain his flight and had no choice but to return to his camp. Right now, he already had the urge to turn around and leave. However, Shenhong was worried that this was a trick played by the great Zhao to deceive him. As for the news that the human sovereign was not dead, he did not dare to believe it no matter what. How could the human sovereign not be dead? Then why did he fake his death? Could it be purely to force us out? But what's the point of that? Shenhong racked his brains but still could not figure out why the human sovereign had faked his death. It was completely meaningless if it was purely to lure them out. Because if the human sovereign was not dead, they would not have dared to rebel so openly. They would not have let the great Zhao fall to its current state. Just to force them out, the human race had lost so much strength. No matter how he thought about it, it did not make sense. Could it be for the demonic beasts? A thought suddenly flashed through Shenhong's mind. He looked at the several mighty experts in the sky. If he still did not know the identity of these people, then he, the Marquis of Wuan, would be blind. Mighty experts of the demonic beasts. Demonic saints. At this moment, the situation changed rapidly. The ghost saint was seriously injured, causing the other 3 demonic saints to feel greatly threatened. Xingtian? Eagle Saint's originally indifferent gaze could no longer maintain his calm. The other 2 demonic saints had a similar reaction. The ghost saint's serious injury was a great blow to them. But back in the heavenly demon temple, Zexing had personally calculated that the human sovereign had indeed died. Under such circumstances, it could not be fake. After all, when it came to the Tao of divination, no one among the demonic beasts could surpass him. Even among the human and demonic beasts, Zexing's Tao of divination could be considered the pinnacle. As a result, how could Xingtian have faked his death? Unless this was a backup plan left behind by the great Zhao. In reality, the human sovereign was already dead, and what had appeared just now was something similar to the heavenly human decree. Thoughts churned in his mind. Eagle Saint and the other 2 demonic saints had now forced themselves to calm down. As for Xiang, he was currently in a completely dazed state. The sigh just now and the commotion caused by the attack made him think that his father was not dead. But if his father was not dead, then why did he fake his death? More importantly, he also wondered if this was one of the methods left behind by his father. Speaking of which, it was a little ridiculous that the current divine emperor did not know about the methods left behind by the previous human sovereign. But Xiang understood that some things were only in the hands of the imperial astronomer. Although he was the current divine emperor, he did not have the right to interfere with the imperial astronomer. Not long after everyone was puzzled. Yellow clouds rose into the sky and thousands of auspicious clouds hung down. A person stepped out of the imperial city and arrived at the battlefield. When he saw that familiar but dignified face and the black imperial robe he wore, Xiyang's pupils contracted violently. "Father! Your subjects greet the human sovereign!" At this moment, whether it was Fang Yilan, the imperial court's experts, or the soldiers, they all bowed at the same time and greeted the human sovereign. In the formation of the rebels, everyone stood rooted to the ground in a daze. When Shenhong saw that familiar face, he staggered a few steps and could not stand steadily. Human sovereign! At this moment, he could no longer suppress the fear in his heart. It was not just him. When Zhang Yi and the others saw the human sovereign, their faces were ghastly pale. Their original arrogance had disappeared. The human sovereign. It was really the human sovereign. The human sovereign was not dead. He was just faking his death to trick them. As for the purpose of faking his death, some people had already guessed that it was for the demon race. After the extreme fear, it turned into a monstrous murderous intent. "Kill all of you! Kill him!" Shenhong immediately commanded the Wuan army to attack the human sovereign. However, no matter how he commanded, the Wuan army did not move. It was as if they did not hear him. Regarding this, Shenhong was even more furious. "All of you are ignoring my orders. Kill all of you immediately. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you and your 9 generations." It was useless. It did not work at all. No matter how angry Shenhong was, the soldiers of the army lowered their heads and did not move at all. At this moment, Gu Changqing rose into the air and shouted loudly, "Army of Qian Mountain, listen to my orders. Follow me and kill the rebels!" The silent situation was completely disrupted by this loud shout. Soon, the Qianshan army turned their spears around and charged at the original rebels. Gu Changqing rose into the air and pressed down on Shenhong with his palm. "Gu Changqing, how dare you betray us!" Shenhong was furious. At this moment, Gu Changqing's betrayal was like adding fuel to the fire. Hearing this, Gu Changqing laughed heartily and said, "Shenhong, when did I betray you? What do you mean by that? You should know very well what I mean." After a simple conversation, the two of them started fighting in the air. Boom! However, in just a single exchange, Shenhong felt an inexplicable ripple covering him. The heaven and earth powers that he had originally controlled were all cut off. Instantly his power dropped drastically. Then, he took Gu Changqing's palm and retreated while coughing up blood. Territory. You're an almighty. Shenhong clutched his chest and looked at the powerful Gu Changqing. The shock on his face was even more intense. Gu Changqing was an almighty. When he thought about how Gu Changqing did not reveal his power, he felt even more miserable. As for the others, many people were attracted by the battle between the two of them. When they heard Shenhong's words, the way they looked at Gu Changqing changed. However, the news that Gu Changqing was an almighty was shocking. However, what was truly shocking was the words that came out of his mouth. In an instant, many people realized what was going on. Zhang Yi immediately cursed. Gu Changqing, you F***king tricked me. Even though the human emperor was intimidating him, he could not hold back his anger. The reason why Nafeng Prefecture rebelled so quickly was that Gu Changqing was forced into a corner by Yan Saija. In order to ease the situation in Thousand Mountains Prefecture, he rebelled with Fallen Moon Prefecture. After all, if Thousand Mountains Prefecture was destroyed, it would not be so easy for the other prefectures to rebel. In the end, now, Gu Changqing told him that he was a member of the imperial court from the beginning. The rebellion was just to lure them out. It was hard for Zhang Yi not to be angry. As for Sacred Eagle and the other monster saints, they were even more furious. Gu Changqing, how dare you lie to us monsters? Sacred Eagle's eyes were terrifyingly cold. If he could, he swore to tear Gu Changqing into pieces. Hearing that, Gu Changqing glanced at him and sneered. So what if I work with you? Now that the monster race is attacking, have you ever let Thousand Mountains Prefecture go? Humans and monsters are enemies. So what if I lie to you? Sacred Eagle was so angry that his liver hurt. Yes. Now that Gu Changqing had confessed, what could they do to him? Marquis Qianshan was now an almighty, and the human emperor had faked his death. The tables had turned in an instant. Pass down my order. Kill all the rebels. The human emperor, who had been silent, said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, the morale of the imperial court was greatly boosted. They immediately charged towards the other rebels. As for Xiang, he stood there in a daze. His expression was complicated. No one knew what he was thinking. The human emperor glanced at him and said calmly, Go and kill the rebels. Hearing that, Xiang was stunned. Then, he lowered his head and replied, Yes, father. Then, the human emperor looked at Sacred Eagle and the others and said, The monster race has been hiding in the endless mountains for so many years. Now, they are finally willing to come out. You did not disappoint me. You deliberately lured us out. Sacred Eagle gritted his teeth. If he still did not know the human emperor's plan, he would have lived for nothing. The 12 monster saints were guarding the heavenly monster temple. Their purpose was to resist the human emperor. Now that the monster saints had left the heavenly monster temple and the human emperor was not dead, it meant that the monster race did not have the ability to resist the human emperor. As for escaping, Sacred Eagle looked at the severely injured ghost saint and could not help but feel his heart palpitate. The current human emperor was even more terrifying than he had been 6,000 years ago. Although the human emperor had been powerful back then, but he was definitely not to this extent. Otherwise, the monster race might not have had the chance to escape into the endless mountains. Hearing that, the human emperor shook his head and said, Monster race, do you really think that I have done so much just for the monster race? What do you mean? Nothing. I have said enough. Do you want to kill yourselves, or do you want me to do it myself? The human emperor put his hands behind his back and looked at the 3 monster saints as if he was looking at ordinary people. His eyes did not waver at all. Sacred Eagle and the others felt their hearts sink. In the next instant, the 3 monster saints revealed their true forms. Then they smashed through the void and fled into the sky. Run! This was the only thought in the minds of all the monster saints. In the past, even the monster emperor was not a match for the human emperor. How could the 3 of them fight the human emperor? As for the ghost saint, they had given up on him long ago. They did not have much confidence in escaping by themselves. If they brought the severely injured ghost saint with them, it would be equivalent to dying together with the other party. However, the three monster saints had just fled when they saw the human emperor's body in the air. The sky within a radius of 10,000 miles collapsed and turned into an extremely powerful domain that covered the three monster saints. Then, it was the stellar shift. The monster saints who had fled far away now appeared in front of the human emperor again. Impossible. Even if you are a peak almighty, you can't have such means. One of the monster saints was in a frenzy. There was an uncontrollable fear in his heart. After breaking through to Almighty, one could have their own domain. But now, Renhuang's domain had completely covered the three of them. The powerful pressure caused the originally vast domain to shrink to a radius of 10 feet around them. It was barely enough to protect them. Such a difference, it did not seem like they were on the same level at all. Qin Shijian, on the other hand, was completely reduced to a spectator. There was no doubt. The human emperor was really not dead. Not only was he not dead, but his strength was also terrifyingly strong. An ordinary almighty was simply on a different level in front of him. It could be seen from the way the human emperor played with the three monster saints in the palm of his hand. Then, Qin Shijian's gaze fell on Tai Xuanzi. The Black Civ sect master's face was frighteningly pale. His white beard was still trembling. Tai Xuanzi, now it seems that the person who defied the heavens and changed fate is not me. Qin Shijian's face was full of mockery as he said with a faint smile. But I really admire Brother Tai Xuanzi's courage. I believe that in the future, even if the Black Civ sect is gone, your name will definitely go down in history and be respected by tens of thousands of people. What was the saying about the Wheel of Fortune? Now, the Wheel of Fortune had turned. The human emperor was not dead. The original disadvantage of the great Zhao dynasty was instantly reversed. Originally, the rebels' side had already lost their momentum. With the appearance of the human emperor, the armies of the various prefectures did not dare to act rashly. Some had even surrendered directly. The only ones left who were still resisting were Shenhong and a few others. On the side of the imperial court. On the surface, Xiang, Fan Yilan, Gu Changqing, and the others were already three mighty figures. There were also a few saint experts under them and an army to support them. The strength of the two sides was no longer on the same level. So, Tai Xuanzi was not in the mood to pay too much attention to Qin Shijian's words. With the appearance of the human emperor, his Taoist heart that he had cultivated for thousands of years was also shaken at this moment. It could even be said that it collapsed. The human emperor had appeared. There was no doubt that the imperial court would win. In this way, with the strength of the Black Civ sect, the imperial court would probably be able to turn it into ashes with a single breath. Tai Xuanzi was certainly afraid of death. But he was even more unwilling to see the foundation of the Black Civ sect for so many years be completely destroyed. So now, Tai Xuanzi was in a dilemma. He had no intention of fighting with Qin Shijian at all. Tai Xuanzi did not make a move. Qin Shijian did not plan to fight with him either. It was not easy to kill a third-tier celestial being expert. If the other party wanted to leave, he might not be able to stop him. Instead of wasting time, it was better to save some energy. As for harvesting the source of life, Qin Shijian looked at the rebel army that had almost all surrendered and shook his head again. Everyone had surrendered. It would be too much to rush over and kill at this time. As for the rest, watching the battle between the celestial beings on both sides, Qin Shijian was already looking for an opportunity to intervene. Boom! Boom! Whether it was Shenhong or the others, they were now desperately resisting. They had no intention of surrendering at all. Everyone knew that surrendering now was no different from throwing away their lives. Stubbornly resisting might still have a chance of survival. Only death awaited them if they surrendered. But, although the rebel vassals were strong, in the face of the three celestial beings led by Xiyang, a group of saints, and the encirclement of the army, it was difficult for them to be of much use. After Gu Changqing displayed the strength of a celestial being, he changed his usual low-key style and suppressed Shenhong. The battle had only been going on for less than 10 minutes. Shenhong was already severely injured. At this moment, Qin Shujian flew over and shouted, "Marquis Qian Shan, I will lend you a hand!" As soon as he finished speaking, his divine consciousness burst forth, and countless runes fell with a loud rumble, swallowing Shenhong whole. Then, Qin Shujian stepped into the formation and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Gu Chongqing silently put down his raised hand. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this moment, it was no different from stealing someone's head. To this, he didn't care too much about it. Because Gu Chongqing knew very well that Qin Shujian was a vengeful person. Stealing someone at this time was equivalent to indirectly taking revenge on him for sending someone to assassinate him. As for if the other party could kill Shenhong, then all the treasures on Shenhong would belong to the other party. Fine, Shenhong will let you go. From now on, our grudge is over. Gu Chongqing shook his head and then set his eyes on the next target. Shenhong would let him go. With the strength that Qin Shujian used to kill Du Qingwu, Shenhong's current state was even more miserable than Du Qingwu's. It would not be difficult for the other party to kill him. Of course. If the other party was killed instead, it would not be his fault. On the other side, the 3 demon saints wanted to escape, but they were trapped in the human emperor's domain. No matter how they tried to escape, they could not escape from the human emperor's control. Then, the human emperor pointed out with his finger, and a myriad of mighty forces crashed down. Eagle Saint's body crumbled, and his feathers flew everywhere. He let out a miserable shriek as he fell from the sky. The other 2 demon saints saw this. Their expressions changed drastically. "Have you broken the heavenly human limit?" "Impossible! No one has been able to break the heavenly human limit for thousands of years. It's impossible!" The remaining 2 demon saints were about to go crazy. They couldn't escape. They couldn't beat him. The demon saints who had once guarded the heavenly demon temple and suppressed the entire demon race were now pitifully weak in front of the human emperor. The 2 demon saints trembled slightly and endless fears surged in their hearts. How could they fight? How could they fight? The human emperor slowly retracted his palm and looked at the remaining 2 demon saints. He said, "After the death of the demon emperor, the demon race has really regressed." There was a hint of regret in his words. Hearing this, the expressions of the 2 demon saints changed again. The death of the demon emperor was a secret, but judging from the human emperor's expression, he clearly knew about the death of the demon emperor. They had originally planned to use the demon emperor to intimidate the human emperor, but now it was in vain. "I'll give you a chance to attack. Otherwise, go to hell." As soon as he finished speaking, the 2 demon saints suddenly burst out with a terrifying attack, shaking the void and cracking it. Since they couldn't escape, they would fight it out with the other party. To be able to become a demon saint of the demon clan, it was impossible for him to be a coward. It was just that the appearance of the human emperor at the beginning had shocked them so much that they didn't come back to their senses. But now, the human emperor's words completely aroused the anger in the hearts of the 2 demon saints. "Sword, come!" the human emperor said softly, and the ancient bronze sword that was originally in Shi Yang's hand was now in his hand. Then, like a child, he simply slashed out twice with his sword. When the 2 sword lights appeared, the light of heaven and earth seemed to be absorbed by the sword lights. The sky suddenly darkened. But soon, it regained its light. The 2 demon saints froze in midair, and in the next second, they exploded into a bloody mist that filled the sky. 2 slashes. He had killed 2 demon saints at the almighty level. Suddenly, everyone was shocked again. Then, the human emperor looked down at the heavily injured eagle saint and ghost saint. The ancient bronze sword in his hand fell, and the ancient sword that was originally only 3 feet long instantly grew to dozens of feet long, nailing Eagle Saint to the ground. "Ah!" Eagle Saint let out a miserable cry, but he couldn't break free from the ancient sword's restraint. Then, the human emperor reached out his hand, and a giant hand of energy grabbed Ghost Saint's body. Then, he squeezed hard, and the 9-headed demon body exploded, and the spirit god was destroyed in an instant. In less than 2 breaths of time, all 4 demon saints had fallen. And just as the 4 demon saints fell, the entire demon clan's chi fluctuated. In the heavenly demon temple, Zay's saint suddenly opened his eyes, and his pupils were filled with disbelief. Chapter 484. What happened? The other beast overlords opened their eyes and looked at Zexing. Just now. They all felt their hearts throbbing. Zexing said softly, Eagle Sage and the others have fallen. What? As soon as he said that, all the beast overlords' expressions changed. A beast overlord had fallen. Now that the human emperor had passed away, what kind of powerhouse could kill a beast overlord? Moreover, 4 beast overlords had joined forces. Even if they couldn't defeat the former human emperor, they could still escape. A beast overlord asked anxiously, Zexing, you must have sensed wrongly. I can't be wrong. Eagle Sage and the others have all fallen. Now that the beast overlord's luck is in turmoil, it's a sign of the beast overlord's fall. Zexing closed his eyes in pain, and no one knew what he was calculating. Not long after, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, and a tragic smile appeared on his face. The human emperor is not dead. Impossible. How can the human emperor not be dead? Didn't you deduce that the human emperor had fallen? At this moment, all the beast overlords couldn't sit still. If they could still maintain a little composure when the beast overlords fell, then the news that the human emperor was not dead completely shocked them. The human emperor was not dead. How could the human emperor not be dead? How could the human emperor not be dead? If the human emperor was not dead, and the beast overlords left the heavenly beast temple and died in the hands of the human emperor, the beast overlords would be in big trouble. That's right. After the other beast overlords knew that the human emperor was not dead, it was needless to say who killed Eagle Sage and the other beast overlords. In this world, the only person who could kill a beast overlord was the human emperor who fought with the beast overlord in the past. With that thought in mind, immediately, a beast overlord looked at Zexing angrily and questioned. If you didn't say with certainty that the human emperor was definitely dead, we wouldn't have left the heavenly beast temple so easily. They originally believed in Zexing's deductions 100%. Otherwise, the beast overlords wouldn't have left the heavenly beast temple. Facing the beast overlord's questioning, Zexing didn't answer immediately. Instead, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, then exhaled, and said in a low voice, This time, I was deceived by him, but my clan is good at deduction. To be able to deceive me in this world is not a simple matter. The human emperor definitely has trump cards that we don't know about. Compared to the human clan's providence last time, this time, the human race's providence was clearly flourishing, and even he was being devoured by this power. After all, it was not an easy task to deduce the past and future of a clan. However, Zexing couldn't divine the future of the human race either. All he could do was take a simple peek at the present. Even so, he still suffered serious injuries. Hearing this, a demon sage said in a deep voice, What we're concerned about now is not what trump cards the human emperor has, but that the heavenly demon temple can't gather the 12 demon sages. If the humans attack, how are we going to defend against them? For the other demon saints, it was no longer important what trump cards the human sovereign had. What was important was, what should the demons do next? At this moment, they had also experienced what it meant by every dog has its day. When the human sovereign faked his death, the human race was in chaos. The demon race walked out of the endless mountain range that they had not stepped out of for thousands of years and attacked the vast world. But it hadn't been long since the human sovereign reappeared. The human race with the human sovereign overseeing it. It was not something the current demon race could deal with. So, a demon sage said, Retreat. Otherwise, when the humans react, I'm afraid we'll suffer heavy casualties. Retreat is inevitable. If the human sovereign attacks, what should we do? Allow me to think about this matter. Zexing took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. When the demon emperor was defeated, the demon race was driven into the endless mountain range by the human race. With the human sovereign's personality, he should have killed all the demon race. Fortunately, the heavenly demon temple existed among the demon race. The heavenly demon temple. Although it was founded by the demon emperor, the main body of the entire temple was actually a Zhu Bing. Zhu Bing's power was vast and infinite. Even the human sovereign and demon sovereign of the past found it difficult to conquer. But driving Zhu Bing's main body and unleashing its full power was something that even a mighty figure couldn't do. To truly unleash the power of the heavenly demon temple to the extreme, the 12 demon sages had to work together. This was also why, for more than 6,000 years, the 12 demon sages had never stepped out of the heavenly demon temple. Only the 12 demon sages guarded the heavenly demon temple. The human race would not step into the endless mountain range, because the power of the heavenly demon temple was enough to make the human sovereign flinch. Moreover, in order to prevent the demon sages from being assassinated or seriously injured, causing the heavenly demon temple to be unable to be used perfectly, all the demon sages stayed in the temple for thousands of years. It wasn't until the news of the human sovereign's death was confirmed that the demon sages walked out of the heavenly demon temple. But even Zai Xing didn't expect it. This time, the demon sages left the heavenly demon temple, directly causing the situation that the demon race had maintained for thousands of years to completely collapse. He was also very tired now. 4 of the 12 demon sages had fallen. It was difficult for the remaining 8 demon sages to activate the heavenly demon temple at its peak. If the human sovereign came again, the demon race, they probably didn't have the capital to resist. However, the most important thing now was to withdraw the demon race army first. As for the rest, they could only wait until the future to plan. Soon, an order was issued from the heavenly demon temple, ordering all the demon race that entered the Great Jiao to return to the endless mountain range. At the same time, the news that the human sovereign was not dead was also spread through the order. Immediately, the demon race in the world was shocked and led their clans back to the endless mountain range. Without experiencing the war between the two races for more than 6,000 years, they would never understand the terror of the human sovereign. But as long as the demon race had experienced that war, they would still feel their hearts throb after hearing the name of the human sovereign. In Baiyun Manor. After Marquis Baiyun returned, the army immediately set out to suppress the demon race's unrest. Marquis Baiyun even personally took action and killed 2 heavenly human demons, wiping out 2 clans, and intimidating many demon race. In Marquis Baiyun Manor. When Marquis Baiyun received the news that the human sovereign had faked his death, he was also stunned. He obviously didn't expect this. The human sovereign is not dead! Looking at the communication jade token in his hand, he was stunned for a moment before his expression became a little solemn. It would be fine if the human sovereign had fallen. But since the other party had faked his death, there was only one possibility. The human sovereign. There was a bigger plan. Could it be to deal with the demon race? Marquis Baiyun's mind turned. Then, he looked at the empty place and said softly, "Didn't you say that the aura of the human sovereign had disappeared and that he had indeed fallen? I was wrong about this matter." That voice sounded in his mind, and there was a hint of seriousness in its tone. But soon, the voice changed the topic and said again, "To be able to do this, it seems that the current human sovereign really has that supreme treasure." "What supreme treasure?" Marquis Baiyun instinctively frowned and asked. There were many things that he didn't know as much as the other party. "The heaven-deceiving token." "What is the heaven-deceiving token?" When the heavenly court was still around, the Emperor of Heaven had once refined a supreme treasure that could deceive the heavenly Tao and avoid the 3 calamities and 9 tribulations. At this point, the voice's tone became more and more solemn. But with the collapse of the heavenly court, the heaven-deceiving token had long disappeared without a trace. I didn't expect it to fall into the hands of the human sovereign. The human sovereign must have used the heaven-deceiving token before. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to successfully fake his death. Not to mention me, There must be cultivators in the world who can peek into the heavenly Tao and deduce the past and future. If he wants to deceive everyone, he must have the heaven-deceiving token. Hearing this, Marquis Bayun roughly understood some things. Before he could speak, the voice sounded again. If the human sovereign can obtain the heaven-deceiving token, he must have also obtained the legacy of the heavenly court. I'm afraid that his strength is not that simple. This time, he might not have used the heaven-deceiving token to fake his death to deal with the demon race. Do you mean that the human sovereign has other plans? It's very possible. After saying that, the voice fell silent. As for Marquis Bayun, he fell into deep thought. It was not easy to guess what the human sovereign's plan was. However, whether the human sovereign fell or not, it didn't have much impact on the Bayun manor. Since the human sovereign had faked his death, there was no need to say much about the fate of Shenhong and the others. The internal strife of the great Zhao would not last for long. When the human sovereign swept through the world again, all resistance would be in vain. As for himself, from the beginning to the end, he had not participated in the rebellion. It was impossible for the human sovereign to punish him. Therefore, Marquis Bayun was not worried about this. What he was more concerned about was what the human sovereign's plan was for faking his death. This would affect the entire human race. At this moment, Su Mingyang walked in from outside. The moment he saw Marquis Bayun, he bowed. Marquis! What happened? Marquis Bayun collected his thoughts and looked at Su Mingyang again. Su Mingyang cupped his hands and said, The demon race has retreated. Yes, pass down my order. Hunt down the demon race with all your might, but don't enter the endless mountain range for the time being. Yes. Su Mingyang accepted the order and left. Marquis Bayun's expression was much calmer. The demon race had retreated. After knowing the news of the human sovereign's fake death, he had already expected it. The demon race dared to jump out because the human sovereign had fallen. Now that the human sovereign was not dead, what right did the demon race have to jump out? What courage did they have to jump out? Retreating now. It was undoubtedly the wisest move. However, in Marquis Bayun's opinion, the demon race's retreat was only a temporary solution to the war. After the human sovereign settled the matter of the great Zhao, it was inevitable that he would attack the demon race. After all, the demon race had attacked the 13 prefectures of the great Zhao. If the imperial court did not fight back, it would not be in line with the human sovereign's character. As Marquis Bayun's order was passed down, the entire army of the Bayun prefecture immediately chased after the demon race. As for the itinerant cultivators in the Bayun prefecture, they also understood at this moment, and followed the army to hunt down the demon race. During this period of time, the demon race had attacked the Bayun prefecture, and caused a lot of damage. For this, how could the people in the Bayun prefecture let go of this opportunity to beat the demon race? Chapter 485. In the Imperial City, the human emperor had killed 4 demon saints with a wave of his hand, which had completely shocked everyone. Many people had heard of the human emperor's reputation, but they had never seen the power of the human emperor. But now, he had already seen it with his own eyes. He had killed 2 demon saints with 2 swords. Of the remaining 2 demon saints, one was directly nailed to death, and the other was crushed without any resistance. Such strength. This was already shocking to hear. Boom! The formation was broken, and Shenhong's broken body fell directly to the ground. Qin Shujian's body was also stained with blood, but compared to Shenhong, it was a complete victory. Seeing this scene, the expressions of the experts of the imperial court did not change much. Qin Shujian had killed Du Qingwu before, so it was not surprising that he had killed Shenhong now. He landed. Qin Shujian took the halberd and the storage ring from Shenhong's hand in full view of everyone. He waited until everything was put away. Only then did he stand up in satisfaction. Although an expert at the peak of the Saint realm would be able to refine it, it would definitely give him a rich source of life. However, Qin Shujian still had a bottom line in his heart. Moreover, this time, he had taken the Taoist artifacts of the Fallen Moon Prefecture and Wuhan Prefecture, which had already made a lot of money. As long as he refined the next two Taoist artifacts, Yuan Zhong's promotion was basically a matter of certainty. It was just that Qin Shujian looked in the direction of the human emperor, with some concerns in his heart. In this case, his power would definitely be like the sun in the sky. If Yuan Zhong was promoted, what would the human emperor think? As for this matter, Qin Shujian quickly suppressed the thoughts in his heart. It was not the time to think about this. Whether Yuan Zhong should be promoted, and how to do so, needed to be seriously considered. Moreover, Yuan Zhong was now on the right track. At this time, the promotion of the sect might cause some turbulence. Long before, he knew what kind of drawbacks would come from the promotion of the sect to directly improve the strength. Similarly, if the sect was promoted, the overall strength would definitely be improved to a higher level. It was up to Qin Shujian to decide what to do with it. There are advantages and disadvantages to being a grade 6 force. Only after the matter of the central state capital is over will we be able to consider these problems. Qin Shujian shook his head and decided not to think about it anymore. Subsequently, he turned his gaze to the battlefield. After Shen Hong was killed by him, the other rebel dukes were now in a desperate situation. Your Majesty, I'm willing to surrender. Please give my Qin family a way out. After Qin Yongbui took Gu Chengqing's hit, he spat out blood and knelt down without any resistance. He didn't ask the human emperor to spare his life, because none of the leaders of the rebellion would be able to survive. Otherwise, it would not be enough to intimidate the world. In the future, everyone would rebel at any time. Therefore, Qin Yongbui didn't ask for a way out for himself. He only wanted to fight for a chance of survival for the Qin family. After saying that, Qin Yongbui prostrated himself on the ground, pressing his forehead against the ground. The Marquis of the Marquis Manor had lost all of their previous prestige. The human emperor looked calm and said indifferently, "Exterminate the Qin family. Your Majesty, are you really going to kill all of us?" Qin Yongbui suddenly raised his head and looked at the human emperor with red eyes. The emperor said, "Your uncle Qin Yang rebelled and killed many soldiers of the great Shao. How many lives have fallen? Do you think you alone can offset this sin? To be honest, you don't deserve it. Even if the entire Qin family works together, you don't deserve it. Your Majesty, I rebelled alone. It has nothing to do with the rest of the Qin family. It's their sin to be born in the Qin family." The human emperor shook his head. The coldness in his words made Qin Yongbui's heart tremble. After saying that, the human emperor pointed his finger, and Qin Yongbui's kneeling body exploded. The arrogant Marquis Shichong, who had dominated the Shichong prefecture, was completely dead. Boom! The golden crow soared into the sky and let out a loud cry. The surrounding temperature suddenly skyrocketed, forcing the others to step back. Zhao Xinghuai was no longer as high-spirited as before. Under the siege of many imperial court experts, he was battered and exhausted. As for rebelling, when the human emperor appeared, he no longer had this thought. The burning mountain raging flame flag in his hand was Zhao Xinghuai's last resort. It was because of this six-sealed Dao artifact that he had been able to hold on until now. The moment the heat wave skyrocketed and forced the others to step back, Zhao Xinghuai directly flew into the sky and fled out of the central state prefecture. It was impossible for him to surrender without putting up a fight. Even though he knew that the chances of escaping were slim, he still had a glimmer of hope. "Come back!" The human emperor stretched out his hand, and the burning mountain raging flame flag that originally belonged to Zhao Xinghuai fell into his hand. Then, the human emperor shook his hand gently. A 100-foot-long golden crow soared into the sky and instantly swallowed Zhao Xinghuai. Feeling the heat behind him, Zhao Xinghuai had not yet recovered from the state of the burning mountain raging flame flag being taken away. He immediately propped up his protective energy and tried to block the 100-foot-long golden crow. The powerful protective energy of a peak saint could not be broken by ordinary Dao artifacts. However, it melted in front of the 100-foot-long golden crow. Soon, the Marquis of White Yong, Zhao Xinghuai, was swallowed by the 100-foot-long golden crow and turned into ashes. Immediately, the human emperor put away the burning mountain raging flame flag and looked at the other marquises. An invisible hand of protective energy stretched out. "Come back!" The Tao artifacts in the hands of the marquises all broke away from their original control and flew toward the human emperor. Looking at the Tao artifacts in front of him, the human emperor used his divine thought to forcefully erase all the master recognition marks on the Tao artifacts. Puff! After the master recognition marks were erased, the marquises all spat out blood and their strength fell to the freezing point. Qin Shijian's expression changed slightly when he saw this. The human emperor took away the Tao artifacts of the marquises so easily. Was it because of the other party's strength, or did he have a hidden card in the beginning? This point, he was not sure. However, he still had 2 Tao artifacts in the marquises. If the human emperor asked him to take them back, should he give them back or not? For a moment, Qin Shijian was a little conflicted. Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, the human emperor had already attacked and killed the remaining marquises. Just like the fall of the 4 demon saints, the remaining marquises could not even last a round in the hands of the human emperor, and were all killed. This strength, it was already beyond the scope of what ordinary people could understand. Even Shi Yang and the other almighties looked extremely solemn when they saw the human emperor's means. Only by breaking through the almighties, only then could they understand how terrifying the almighty's strength was. However, such an almighty's could not stir up any waves in front of the human emperor at all. There was no reason for it. The same thought appeared in their minds. The other party had broken through the celestial limit and reached a higher level. Only this conjecture was in line with reality. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain why the human emperor was so strong. Moreover, there was an even more important point. That was, if the human emperor did not break through, his lifespan would not be long now. It was simply unreasonable for him to have such strength at this stage of dying. At this moment, all the marquises were dead. Only the marquises' army stood there quietly, waiting for the human emperor's orders. The human emperor's calm expression disappeared and turned solemn. He said in a deep voice, "Qiang, your son is here. From today onwards you are the crown prince of the great Xiao. I will give you 7 days to quell all the rebellions in the various marquises. Your son accepts the order." Shi Yang respectfully accepted the order. From the moment the human emperor appeared, he knew that his emperor's position was over. Although he was unwilling in his heart, he felt more relaxed. A month later, the great Xiao will attack the demon clan. All humans can participate in the battle. The human emperor looked at everyone and issued a second order. Instantly, everyone's expression changed drastically, but it was quickly replaced by joy. This time, the attack on the demon clan. It would definitely not be as simple as driving the demon clan back to the endless mountains. As such, attacking the demon clan, they would probably destroy the entire demon clan. If the demon clan was destroyed, the human clan would be the only major clan in the world, and it would be difficult to resist. What happened after that was much simpler. All the rebellious dukes were killed. Just as the human emperor had said, they were all exterminated. For a moment, heads were rolling everywhere. But no one dared to plead for mercy. They did not even dare to say a word. In less than 7 days, the rebels who still existed in various places surrendered one after another, and did not dare to go against the imperial court. As for this period of time, Qin Shijian stayed in the Bright Vision General's mansion, quietly recovering from his injuries. Killing Shenhong was not an easy task for him either. Of course, the harvest was also very rich. One was Du Qingwu and the other was Shenhong. Both of them were experts at the peak of the Sane realm. Although they did not use the Red Lotus of Purgation to refine them, they still gave each of them 300 million points of life as a harvest. In addition to that, They were the treasures in their storage rings and the 2 Dao artifacts. For these things, Qin Shujian had not tidied them up yet. It was not until he completely recovered from his injuries that he began to prepare to tidy them up. At the same time, he also received the news that the demon clan had retreated from the Baiyun mansion. Regarding this, Qin Shujian was not too surprised. After all, the 4 demon saints had fallen and the human emperor's power covered the world. It was natural for the demon clan to retreat. From the beginning to the end, the demon clan did not have the ability to compete with the human emperor. Otherwise, they would not have hidden in the Skyan mountains for so many years and did not dare to move. They only dared to come out when the human emperor faked his death. This was a typical example of a monkey becoming king when the tiger is not in the mountain. Now that the human emperor had reappeared, the demon clan could only retreat into the Skyan mountains if they did not want to die so quickly. Just as Qin Shujian was about to take stock of his gains, however, Dan Hao had come alone. He did not hide his aura, so Qin Shujian had already sensed him when he approached. Immediately, Qin Shujian put away the things and then opened the door. He happened to see Dan Hao coming in from outside. "General Dan! Sect Master Qin, you came out just in time. His Majesty ordered me to come and invite you to meet him." Dan Hao was obviously in a good mood and there was a smile on his face. "His Majesty wants to see me?" Qin Shujian was slightly stunned and there was some surprise on his face. The human emperor wanted to see him. To be honest, he really did not expect it. The human emperor was not Xiang. With such a level of existence, it was a bit strange to see him, a cultivator at the first level of the heaven realm. However, although Qin Shujian had concerns in his heart, he also knew that he could not refuse this matter. Hearing this, he nodded and said, "When do you want to go?" "Now. General Dan, please lead the way." "Haha, Sect Master Qin, just follow me." Dan Hao smiled and led the way on the side. While walking, he seemed to know some of Qin Shujian's thoughts and comforted him. "Sect Master Qin, don't be nervous. His Majesty summoned you this time. It will only be a good thing, not a bad thing." Hearing this, Qin Shujian also calmed down a little. Thinking about it carefully, Dan Hao's words were not without reason. If the human emperor really wanted to do something to him, he did not need to go through so much trouble and summon him personally. With the power outside the imperial city and the means of doing things, if the other party really wanted to deal with a person, he was afraid that it would be better to directly crush him to death. The second time he entered the palace, Qin Shujian was somewhat familiar with it. The same back garden, the same place. The difference was, the person standing there had already changed from Xiang to the current human emperor. "Your Majesty, Qin Shujian has been brought here," Dan Hao said with a respectful attitude. The human emperor glanced at Dan Hao and said with a smile, "General Dan has worked hard this time. Your Majesty is too kind. If there is nothing else, this humble subject will take his leave first." "Go." "Yes." Dan Hao cupped his hands and left. Unlike in front of Xiang, this General Mingyuan did not dare to be rude in front of the human emperor. After Dan Hao left, Qin Shujian then cupped his hands and said, "Qin Shujian greets the human emperor. I heard that Sect Master Qin is the reincarnation of a mighty figure. I wonder if it is true or not?" The human emperor smiled slightly, like an ordinary elder, but the faintly discernible majesty on his body still made people not dare to look directly at him. Hearing this, Qin Shujian's heart trembled, but his expression did not change as he replied, "Maybe. It seems that Sect Master Qin has not awakened the fate." "Fate? As long as the reincarnation of an expert, some are born knowing, and some are covered in dust. They need to return to the peak of the past to awaken the memories of their previous life," the human emperor patiently explained. Said, "If Sect Master Qin has not awakened the fate, then it should belong to the latter. If your Majesty had not said it, I would not have known." The mountain-breaking halberd and the perishing jade are in your hands. The human emperor suddenly changed the topic and said lightly, "The mountain-breaking halberd, the perishing jade?" Hearing this, Qin Shujian was obviously stunned. These two names, he was a little unfamiliar. However, Qin Shujian was only confused for a moment before he immediately reacted. "Your Majesty is talking about the mansion guarding Dao artifacts in the hands of Du Chunwu and Shenhong?" "Yes, in the past, I obtained 12 six-sealed Dao artifacts and distributed them to each mansion to suppress the world's luck." The human emperor nodded and said, "Among them, each mansion has a Dao artifact. The perishing jade in the hands of Du Chunwu, the mountain-breaking halberd in the hands of Shenhong, and the mountain-burning flame flag in the hands of Zhao Xinghuai are all like this." Hearing this, Qin Shujian had a little understanding of the mansion guarding Dao artifacts. 12 six-sealed Dao artifacts! To be honest, even if he had guessed, he was still a little surprised when he really knew. What did a six-sealed Dao artifact mean? If Qin Shujian was not wrong, a six-sealed Dao artifact could at least give birth to a sixth-level force. As for a sixth-level force, it was definitely not comparable to a fifth-level force. However, now that the human emperor mentioned these two Dao artifacts, it also made Qin Shujian's heart pound. After the other party finished speaking, the scene quieted down for a moment. After a long time, Qin Shujian felt that the surrounding environment was a little dull, and could not help but ask, "Your Majesty means that you want to take back the heaven-breaking halberd and the perishing jade?" According to the normal process, as soon as the human emperor mentioned these two Dao artifacts, ordinary people should consciously hand them over. However, for Qin Shujian, the two six-sealed Dao artifacts were too precious. If he handed them over for nothing, he would die of heartache. Therefore, it was better to ask more clearly. If the human emperor really wanted them, then he could only return them. If he misunderstood the other party's meaning and lost the two six-sealed Dao artifacts for nothing, he would have nowhere to cry. Hearing this, the human emperor laughed and said, "You can kill Du Qingwu and Shenhong with your own ability. Those two Dao artifacts are your spoils of war. If you can use them well, they will be a big resistance." Speaking of this, he looked at the distant sky, shook his head and said, "There are too few strong people in the human race." Qin Shujian cupped his hands and thanked, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for the treasure. Well, I heard that you have reached the second realm of array formation Grandmaster. This is a third realm array formation Grandmaster comprehension crystal. I might as well give it to you." The human emperor laughed, took out a crystal from somewhere, and threw it over casually. Qin Shujian hurriedly reached out and caught it. For a moment, he looked a little embarrassed. He dared to swear. He really did not intend to ask for benefits from the other party. However, looking at the inheritance crystal in his hand, Qin Shujian simply kept it and said with a sincere face, "Thank you, Your Majesty." The third realm array formation Grandmaster comprehension crystal. For him, it was still very useful. The gap between the first realm and the second realm was 100 times. The gap between the second realm and the third realm was at least 100 times. 100 billion life sources. This was a huge number. Now that most of the demons in the Great Zhao were killed, it was obviously impossible to harvest a few 100 million more life sources. If only Yuan Zong provided it. 100 billion life sources, it would probably take hundreds of years. Moreover, this was under the premise that he did not raise his own realm. If he had to raise his cultivation techniques at the same time, the consumption in the later stage would be even higher. Although this inheritance crystal might not be able to make him suddenly reach the third realm of array formation Grandmaster, it was enough for him to gain some enlightenment and explore some things. "All right, if there's nothing else, you can go back." The human emperor directly ordered him to leave. In response, Qin Shujian immediately cupped his hands and left. In front of the human emperor, he felt pressured all the time. Now that the human emperor asked him to leave, it was just what he wanted. Looking at Qin Shujian's back view, a look of doubt flashed across the human emperor's eyes. The reincarnation of a mighty figure who has never awakened? Even if he is the reincarnation of a mighty figure, it is impossible for him to go from nothing to a heavenly being in just a few years. To be able to do this, only an expert above the almighty level would be able to do so. If that's the case, could Qin Shujian be an expert from the ancient heavenly court? For a moment, many doubts arose in the human emperor's heart. However, he did not seriously investigate too much. So what if he was a mighty figure of the ancient heavenly court? Whether he was the reincarnation of a mighty figure or not, what did it mean? As long as the other party was a mighty figure of the human clan, it was enough. As for the others, they were all small problems. I only hope that the human clan will exist forever. The human emperor sighed, and there seemed to be some melancholy on his face. But soon, the melancholy disappeared. Immediately afterward, a dense aura spread from his body, and then his body disappeared on the spot. On the other side, after coming out of the palace, Qin Shujian went back to Mingyuan General's mansion without stopping. As soon as Dan Hao sat down, he saw him coming back. Sect Master Qin, you came back so soon? I just chatted with His Majesty for a while, and came back when there was nothing else. Qin Shujian laughed and did not say much. The human emperor gave him something. He would not spread it everywhere. Dan Hao heard this and did not ask too much. Then, Qin Shujian said, I've troubled General Dan for a long time this time. Now that the matter of the Imperial City is over, I should take my leave. Sect Master Qin, don't you want to stay for a few more days? No, although the monster clan has retreated now, Yuan sect is close to the Skyan mountain range after all. I'm afraid there have been many twists and turns in the attack of the monster clan this time. I still have to go back and deal with some things. Qin Shujian shook his head and refused. Now, he was not eager to go back, but he was not far away. Some time ago, when the monster clan attacked, the list of people who died in Yuan sect was almost flooded. Fortunately, there were no familiar names on it, which proved that nothing had happened to the higher-ups of the sect. But this time, Yuan sect was definitely shaken by the twists and turns. If he had not received the news that Marquis Baiyun had led the army back to the Baiyun mansion, Qin Shujian would have rushed back when the monster clan attacked. It was also because of Marquis Baiyun's return that he suppressed the impulse in his heart. After all, with Marquis Baiyun's help, the problem could basically be solved. If even Marquis Baiyun could not solve it, it would be difficult for him to change anything with his own strength. Therefore, Qin Shujian did not go back. Now that the rebels were dead and he had taken the benefits, the rest had nothing to do with him. There was not much use for him to stay in the Bright Vision General's mansion. Hearing this, Dan Hao did not stop him. If I go to the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain in the future, Sect Master Qin, please do not avoid me. Haha, General Dan, don't worry. When the time comes, I will be waiting for you. Goodbye. Take care, Sect Master Qin. Qin Shujian cupped his hands and left the Bright Vision General's mansion. The Imperial City was different from other cities. In the Imperial City, only the inner city had a teleportation door for the people of the Imperial Court. Other than that, there was nothing else. Qin Shujian was not a member of the Imperial Court, so naturally, he could not use the teleportation door in the inner city. Therefore, if he wanted to go back, he could only go to other cities and then teleport to the Baiyun mansion step by step. He did not waste too much time. After a simple identification of the direction, he walked toward the city gate. After he went out of the city gate, Qin Shujian flew into the air and turned into a stream of light, escaping into the distance. About an hour later, a city was already in sight. Chapter 486. Mount Liang Spirit Domain. As the first line of defense of the North Cloud Mansion, it was also desolate. Even though there were top sects here, it was still the same. After all, although the top sects were strong, compared to the monster race, they were still too weak. Even though the monster race had retreated, there were still traces of devastation. Yuan sect. Xingfang's face was also a little pale. He turned his head and looked at Su Yuanming. Have all the monster race retreated to the Skyan mountain range? From the news, the human emperor faked his death and the monster race has retreated. This calamity is finally over. Xingfang also breathed a sigh of relief. During this period of monster race attack, Qin Shujian was not here. As the Great Elder, he was also under a lot of pressure. The moon-devouring wolf clan was not weak, and they could control a large number of monsters. In addition to that, there were also other monster race attacks. Relying on Jiang Feng alone, it was also completely impossible to contend with so many powerhouses. In the end, he activated the array left by Qin Shujian to protect the inheritance. But even so, Yuan's sect also suffered a great loss. Among them, many disciples died in the hands of the monster race. Even some guest elders in the god martial arts realm were found to have died accidentally. As for Xingfang himself, he was also seriously injured in the hands of a god martial arts realm monster. If it were not for the timely rescue of Yuan's sect experts, this first elder had most likely perished in the demon race army. Su Yuanming asked, "How is the great elder's injury now?" "It's not a big problem. He will recover after a period of recuperation." Xingfang shook his head and said, "Now that the human emperor has faked his death and revived, the turmoil in the world has gradually subsided. The monster race has retreated to the Skyan mountain range. Our sect should not have a big problem in this time. However, there is news that the human emperor will attack the monster race in a month. We still need to pay attention to this matter." In the end, Xingfang added one more sentence. Su Yuanming nodded. Yuan Pavilion has been paying close attention. Speaking of Yuan Pavilion, the two of them were relieved. The only good thing about the chaos of the monster race this time was probably the change in Yuan Pavilion. In the past, other than assassination missions, there were also assassination missions in Yuan Pavilion. After this incident, others discovered that in addition to assassination missions, they could also hire some people to protect them or do some things for them. The misconceptions in his thinking had been revealed, causing the number of missions in Yuan Pavilion to increase day by day. If it was said that Yuan's sect didn't suffer a huge loss this time, then a considerable portion of the subsidies would come from Yuan Pavilion. Speaking of which, 2 million taels to ensure their survival for 20 years seems to be too much of a loss for us. Should we think of a way to raise the price? Su Yuanming suddenly changed the topic and said with a smile. This time, the sects of the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain had suffered heavy losses. However, in all seriousness, not a single sect was destroyed. On the one hand, such sects had a strong foundation and could not attract the attention of the demon race. Naturally, they would not send too many experts to kill them. There was another aspect. It was these sects that issued the missions and received the support of many rogue cultivators. Other than that, Yuan Zong did not turn a blind eye to this. These sects had also sent people to request for help. As long as it was within their capabilities, Yuan Zong would also send people to help. Back then, he had charged the other party 2 million taels. It was because Yuan's sect was still very weak at that time and had a weak foundation in all aspects. That was why it was like this. However, Yuan's sect had developed too quickly. In just a few years, it had directly climbed to the level of a top sect. When he looked back again, 2 million taels to ensure their survival for 20 years, no matter how he looked at it, it was a loss. Hearing this, Xingfang shook his head and said, "This can't be done. Otherwise, our sect's reputation will be tarnished." "Then forget it." Su Yuanming smiled. He had just come up with this idea on a whim. Whether this matter could be done or not, he was very clear about it. Just as the two of them were talking, Xingfang and Su Yuanming's communication jade talismans moved. Then, the two of them sent their divine senses down. After a while, they looked at each other and smiled. "It seems that I don't need to care about this matter anymore. The person in charge has returned. Great Elder, do you want to go together?" "Let's go together." Outside the mountain gate, Qin Shujian had already appeared there. It took him a lot of time to return from the Central State Prefecture to the Beiyun Mansion. Now that he had returned, he was relieved to see that the mountain gate was still in good condition. Just as he stepped into the mountain gate, a few elders were already approaching them. Sect Master! Yes, the demon clan has been causing trouble recently. Has anything major happened? Qin Shujian could tell at a glance that Xingfang and the others were weak. It was obvious that they had suffered serious internal injuries. For this, he was already prepared. As long as they didn't die, it was fine to suffer some injuries. Xingfang said, This time, many of our sect's disciples have died or been injured in the demon clan's turmoil. When you step into the cultivation world, you should have been prepared. Life and death are up to fate. No one can change anything. Qin Shujian shook his head slightly. His expression didn't change. This was the case when one's strength was inferior to others. If one day he encountered a stronger enemy, he would have nothing to say if he was killed. So, from the beginning to the end, Qin Shujian had been constantly improving his strength. From the threat of the players at the beginning, to the devil calamity demons, as well as the experts of the human clan and the demon clan, it was the same. As long as he embarked on this path, there would be no chance of stability. If he wanted stability, only if he was strong enough. As the few of them chatted, they had already arrived at the inherited martial hall. At this time, the news of Qin Shujian's return had completely spread. There was no need for the sect master to summon them. The elders of the various branches had already spontaneously arrived. Greetings, sect master! Elders, please take a seat. Thank you, sect master. Ever since he broke through to the divinity realm, Qin Shujian had always had a faintly discernible aura. He didn't deliberately restrain this aura, nor would he deliberately erupt it. But ordinary cultivators would involuntarily maintain reverence in front of him. This was the power of a divinity realm cultivator. Now in the inherited martial hall, although the people sitting were all elders of the Yuan sect, in terms of strength, the gap between them and a divinity realm cultivator was not just a little. Even Xiang Haogan, a great cultivator of the god martial arts realm, in front of the current Qin Shujian, he didn't dare to overstep in the slightest. Qin Shujian looked at the crowd and said calmly, Elders, you have contributed greatly to the fact that our sect is safe and sound when the demon race army attacked. Sect Master, you're exaggerating, Xingfang said first. Then, he cupped his hands and said, Sect Master, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. Great Elder, feel free to say it. Now that our sect has been involved in many wars, we have lost a lot of disciples. I think we should open the mountain gate and recruit disciples with potential in Baiyun Mansion. Recruit disciples. Qin Shujian's expression was solemn. He didn't immediately answer the other party. Indeed, the Yuan sect had been involved in several wars and had lost a lot of disciples. Correspondingly, the number of people who provided him with life had decreased by a lot. However, the Yuan sect originally had more than 10,000 disciples. At its peak, it had more than 20,000 disciples. This number of disciples was already one of the best among all the sections. If they continued to recruit disciples, it would inevitably arouse the suspicion of the imperial court. However, after meeting the human emperor this time, Qin Shujian realized that he had misunderstood some things. Given the human emperor's breadth of mind and vision, he would definitely not be constrained by a small sect. Even if the sect had hundreds of thousands of cultivators, it might not be able to move the human emperor. At this moment, when Qin Shujian looked at the Yuan sect again with his Dharma eye, there were no signs of bad luck shrouding the Yuan sect's luck. Back when the Yuan sect had reached the peak of a 5th-grade force. Although the Yuan sect's luck was strong, it was covered by bad luck. Now, the Yuan sect's luck was still strong, but the bad luck that shrouded it had disappeared without a trace. Qin Shujian knew very well what this meant. When Xiang was outside, the other party couldn't tolerate the birth of a 6th-grade force. Now that the human emperor was in power, he had no scruples about it. He could tell from the fact that the human emperor gave him the mountain-breaking halberd and the broken jade. After all, 2 six-sealed Dao artifacts could give birth to a 6th-grade sect. It was impossible that the human emperor didn't know. At this time, the human emperor gave him the Dao artifacts to make him feel more at ease. After a short moment of consideration, Qin Shijian nodded slightly and said, "It's time to recruit disciples. Now is the right time." However, in this recruitment, other than the talented ones, the rest of the disciples will be based on talent. As for the age, they cannot be more than 16 years old. After the age of 16, one's foundation would be set. If they wanted to be nurtured, the chances of them reaching the peak in the future would not be high. The Yuan sect now was different from before. In the past, the Yuan sect lacked experts, but now, the Yuan sect didn't lack that. The Yuan sect now. What they needed was the accumulation of a foundation and enough time to develop. It didn't matter if the batch of disciples recruited now couldn't form an effective fighting force in the short term, but after a few years, these disciples would gradually grow. This was especially so with the current resources of the Yuan sect and the abundant spirit energy in the sect. As long as a disciple with normal aptitude stayed for a few years, it wouldn't be a big problem for them to enter the real martial realm. However, it was easy to enter the real martial realm. However, if they wanted to go further, they couldn't just rely on resources. There were certain requirements for talent in all aspects. For the Yuan sect, what they lacked now wasn't the real martial realm or the spiritual martial realm, but a batch of disciples with the potential to grow. In the future, they could strive for the spiritual martial realm, the divine martial realm, and even the heavenly man realm. Hearing this, the others also remained silent. Opening the sect to recruit disciples was also a lot of benefits for them. After these few incidents, all the branches had suffered a lot. Especially the branches in the stone forest, they were the first to bear the brunt. Since the sect was open this time, they could get some new blood. As for what happened later, Qin Shijian just gave a few simple instructions and it was over. After leaving the Qingwu Hall, Qin Shijian didn't go anywhere. Instead, he ran to the forbidden area. The entire Yuan sect. It could be said that other than the courtyard where he lived, he stayed the longest in the forbidden area. This was something that couldn't be helped. With Qin Shijian's identity as the sect master, it wasn't appropriate for him to wander around in the Yuan sect. After arriving at the forbidden area, Qin Shijian took out 2 storage rings. As for the origin of the storage rings, one came from Du Qingwu and the other from Shinhong. Both of them were marquises, so they must have a lot of treasures in their hands. However, he didn't have time to check the storage rings after getting them for so long. Now that he was back in the Yuan sect, most of the things were almost done. The rest of the time, it was time to count the gains this time. First of all, Qin Shijian immersed his mind and recognized the 2 storage rings as their owners. With the death of Du Qingwu and Shinhong, the master recognition mark on the rings had long disappeared. Therefore, it wasn't difficult for him to recognize them as their owners. After the recognition process, Qin Shijian picked up the storage ring that originally belonged to Du Qingwu. When he immersed his mind into it, a wide space suddenly appeared in his perception. There weren't many things inside. However, when Qin Shijian's mind scanned through them one by one, his heart was shocked. Materials! All of them were top-quality materials. There were also some exquisite bottles. He guessed that those should be elixirs. In addition, there were 2 inheritance crystals. He could feel the aura on them. These 2 inheritance crystals emitted the aura of heavenly beings. Divinity Realm Martial Arts. And Divinity Realm Martial Arts. Qin Shijian couldn't be sure, but the things inside were definitely at the Divinity Realm. In addition to these things, there were also rows of jade boxes piled up. His mind moved. A jade box appeared in his hand. Then, Qin Shijian opened the jade box. A surge of spirit energy rushed out. Spirit stones! Looking at the 10 spirit stones neatly arranged in the jade box, he felt his hands tremble a little. If one jade box contained 10 spirit stones, Qin Shijian seriously counted the jade boxes in the storage ring. There were more than 50 of them. 10 spirit stones in one jade box. More than 50 jade boxes. That was more than 500 spirit stones. Let's not talk about anything else. Just by looking at these 500 spirit stones, Qin Shujian knew that this was a good deal. As for Divinity Realm martial arts, to be honest, Qin Shujian would never complain about having too many of these things. Every cultivation method and martial art was suitable for different people. The more martial arts there were, the more experts there would be. In other words, Yuan Zhong now had 2 Divinity Realm martial arts. One came from the Heavenly Corpse sect, and the other was his own Guyuan ancestral canon. In comparison, the power of the Guyuan ancestral canon was naturally a street ahead of the Heavenly Corpse sect's martial arts. Then, to cultivate the Guyuan ancestral canon, not everyone could reach a profound level. This was also why, although all of the sect's legacies referred to a single cultivation technique, the reason why there were so many cultivation techniques in each sect was because there were so many of them. To put it bluntly, it was a matter of choice. After understanding the treasures in Du Qingwu's hands, Qin Shujian's attention fell on Shenhong's storage ring. There were so many treasures on the body of a fallen moon marquis. As the more experienced Wuan marquis, he would not be much inferior. As his mind sank, Qin Shujian's body did not move for a while. After a long time, his mind withdrew from inside, and there was an unconcealable smile on his face. Divinity Realm martial arts. It was also the same. In that case, the Divinity Realm martial arts in Du Qingwu and Shenhong's storage rings should be the inheritance of the Du and Shen families. Qin Shujian thought to himself. Only the current patriarch was qualified to sit in the position of a marquis. If the Du and Shen families were placed in the cultivation world, there would be supreme families that could suppress the top sections. However, now, these aristocratic families had been annihilated. No matter how deep his foundation and strength were, in front of the human emperor, he was vulnerable. After suppressing this thought, Qin Shujian also counted the spirit stones in the storage ring and finally came to a result. 727! Taking a deep breath, Qin Shujian's face did not show any excitement, but calmed down. When one thing reached a certain level, there was no longer the joy at the beginning. What he wanted to think now. It was about how to use the extra spirit stones that he had obtained. Should I sell them? No, it's a bit inappropriate. After all, spirit stones are so precious. If I exchange them for some resources, I may lose money. Shenhong has more than 700 spirit stones, Du Qingwu has more than 500 spirit stones, plus the spirit stones that Shiyang gave me and the inventory that I have. Now I have a total of 1,397 spirit stones. If I round it up, I should have 1,400 spirit stones now. In the main sect of the Heavenly Corpse sect, there were only dozens of spirit stones buried. In other words, 1,400 spirit stones are enough to build the foundation of a supreme sect. Qin Shujian's mind was spinning wildly. It was certain that the spirit stones would be buried in the main sect. However, it wasn't appropriate to bury all 1,400 spirit stones in one go. Doing so, although the spirit chi of the origin sect would rise steadily, it could not maximize the benefits. Moreover, if the environment was too comfortable, the subsequent disciples would probably retire in the main sect. Except for assessment missions, probably not many people would be willing to move their butts. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian sighed. What I need is not only strong people, but also strong people who keep going out to harvest the source of life for me. If those people do not move for 10,000 years, even if you give me a few thousand celestial beings, it will be useless. Nurturing the sect was his idea. But the real purpose of nurturing the sect was to contribute the source of life to himself. Or else, in a few decades, his advantage might be caught up by the players. Although a few decades was a long time, when that time came, there would be no place to cry. Therefore, the improvement of strength could not be stopped. As long as the players were still around, this progress could not be stopped. Among so many players, there might be enemies who wanted to kill him all the time. It was only because of the problem of strength that they did not take action. When the players advanced to the celestial being, they would not kill him. Therefore, Qin Shujian was very clear in his heart. The disciples had to recruit. The strength of the origin sect had to be increased. At the same time, his strength had to be constantly improved. This was inseparable from the existence of the source of life. His thoughts stopped here. Qin Shujian already had a follow-up idea. Bury a part of the spirit stones to improve the foundation of the sect. The remaining spirit stones can be considered to create a secret realm of inheritance for the disciples to cultivate. Open up a secret realm. This idea suddenly appeared after he broke through to the second realm of the Array Guru realm. The second realm of the Guru realm. The array had gradually broken away from the inherent category and reached the level of deriving rules. Strictly speaking, such an array was actually already an imperfect small world. According to Qin Shujian's guess, perhaps the third realm of the Guru realm could completely derive a small world. And this, with a slight transformation, would be the prototype of a secret realm. Although there was also a cultivation room in the sect. The spirit chi in the cultivation room was only a little denser than the outside world, but the degree of density was not too high. After all, only a few spirit stones were used, and the overall amount provided was not much. And although there was an array to seal and fix the spirit stones in an area, there would always be some spirit chi spilling out. But a secret realm was different. All of the spirit chi could be firmly sealed inside. However, opening up a secret realm was not a simple thing. Even if Qin Shujian did it himself, it would take some time to prepare. Then, he took out a halberd and a pair of gloves. Mountain-breaking halberd. Jade of defeat. As soon as the two six-sealed Dao weapons appeared, they burst out with a strong killing intent as if to kill him. Even if Du Qingwu and Shenhong were dead, these two Dao weapons that had followed them for many years still remembered Qin Shujian as an enemy. However, as soon as the two Dao weapons attacked, they were directly suppressed by Qin Shujian's palm. Even Du Qingwu and Shenhong are no match for me. How dare these two ownerless Dao weapons resist without permission? You're courting death! The 366-star acupoints shone brightly, and the two Dao weapons were directly suppressed by this tyrannical force. Then, Qin Shujian's divine thought fell again. Two confinement arrays fell and sealed the two Dao weapons. At this moment, in midair, the two Dao weapons trembled slightly, trying to break through the array seal. However, they only caused the void to tremble, but there was no way to break through the array. Looking at the two Dao weapons in front of him, Qin Shujian reached out and rubbed his chin. He was thinking about something now. Should he directly refine the two Dao weapons and let Yuan's sect be promoted to a 6th grade force, or should he swallow the two Dao weapons and use his luck points to upgrade the other Dao weapons? The former was needless to say, and it would be much less troublesome. However, Qin Shujian thought of the scene in the imperial city and shook his head. Even if he didn't think that the human emperor would use such a method, it would be better to be safe than sorry. If the other party really did something, it would be troublesome in the future. As for the latter, although it would save time and effort, it would also have a certain hidden danger. After all, if a 3-sealed Dao weapon suddenly became a 6-sealed Dao weapon, it would be impossible not to attract attention. The method to upgrade Dao weapons. This was not just for show. In the beginning, it wasn't a big problem. After all, those who knew that the Mountain Blood was a 2-sealed Dao weapon were mostly dead. The remaining people mistakenly thought that the Mountain Blood might be a 3-sealed Dao weapon. It was just that he didn't use it much before, so others mistook it for a 2-sealed Dao weapon. As for the fact that the Mountain Blood was originally a 5th-grade weapon, to be honest, the two were completely different now. Even Gu Feng would definitely not be able to recognize it. So be it. Anyway, I'm strong enough. Why should I worry about other people's guesses? Qin Shujian's eyes suddenly turned ruthless. He was already a heavenly being. Why should he worry so much? If there really was a problem, it would be a matter of the future. There would naturally be a solution. It was no big deal. It was fine if he changed to an inconspicuous Dao weapon to upgrade. Chapter 487. The Red Lotus of Purgation appeared. After advancing to the celestial being realm, this ability became even more terrifying. Around the Red Lotus, the void was violently distorted. It was as if in front of this flame, even the void couldn't withstand it. The moment the Red Lotus of Purgation appeared, the two Dao artifacts trembled slightly. Compared to the previous impact on the formation, what was revealed now was fear. Qin Shijian didn't hold back. The two Red Lotus of Purgation were directly thrown over. Buzz! Buzz! When the Red Lotus of Purgation fell, the Dao artifact trembled violently, and a pleading thought came out from it. However, Qin Shijian was unmoved, allowing the Red Lotus to burn and refine. The six-sealed Dao artifact was indeed a Dao artifact at the prefecture level. Even under the refining of the Red Lotus of Purgation, it still held on for a long time. Half an hour later, the two Dao artifacts were completely refined. In the end, only the two Red Lotuses remained there quietly. Qin Shijian reached out and held the two Red Lotuses, then absorbed all the energy in them. Suddenly, the luck value skyrocketed by 40,000 points. Seeing this, Qin Shijian sucked in a breath of air. 40,000 luck points. If that's the case, a six-sealed Dao artifact is equivalent to 20,000 luck points. This number. But it wasn't little at all. 40,000 luck value was equivalent to 40 billion life source. According to his estimation. With so much life source, it was enough to upgrade the origin returning ancestral code by one level. However, for him now, although the increase from the first level of the celestial being to the second level of the celestial being realm was great, if he could get a six-sealed Dao artifact, when he set up the formation in the future, it would also increase his strength by a lot. One was to improve his foundation. The other was to improve his current combat strength. Originally, Qin Shijian had already planned to upgrade the level of the celestial being realm. Now that he saw the 40,000 luck value, he only hesitated for a moment before choosing the latter. Immediately after, he took out the 6th grade Golden Lotus. This Dao artifact that he had obtained from another sect had already grown to the peak of the 3rd seal. It had been so long. This defensive Dao artifact also provided a lot of help. In terms of means, Qin Shijian was more than capable of attacking, but his defense was lacking. To put it bluntly, at this stage, there were only two types of opponents that he could defeat, and those that he couldn't. The former was still acceptable. If the latter encountered someone like Du Chunwu in his prime, an offensive 6-sealed Dao artifact would not be able to make up for the difference. In comparison, if he had a 6-sealed defensive Dao artifact in hand, he wouldn't have been chased so miserably by his opponent. Before upgrading the Dao artifact, Qin Shijian first set up a concealment array formation before injecting his luck points into the Tier 6 Golden Lotus. 10,000 luck points disappeared. The 6th grade Golden Lotus trembled violently. Immediately after, a huge Golden Lotus shadow appeared in the sky. The original 6th grade Golden Lotus had now bloomed with a single lotus leaf. And when the 7th lotus leaf appeared, as if some kind of shackle had been broken, the aura of the Golden Lotus became even more vast. Yuan sect is favored by heaven and earth. Luck is at its peak and it has been upgraded to a 6th grade force. 6th grade force, Yuan sect's people can increase their realm by 7 levels from their original foundation, cannot exceed LV10 spiritual martial realm. Yuan sect's influence has increased. As the sect master of Yuan sect, your realm has been upgraded. As you are already at LV1 heavenly human, your realm upgrade has failed. You will receive an additional 200 million life points. At the same time, a list suddenly appeared in Qin Shijian's mind. On the list were the names of all the disciples of Yuan sect, including the players. This is the list of people who have leveled up? Qin Shijian's expression froze. The changes brought about by breaking through to a 6th grade force were unexpected. In the past, when a force leveled up, all the local people in the sect would level up except for the players. There was no choice at all. But this time, the leveling up, there was an additional list. This meant that now, whoever he wanted to break through would be able to do so. Whoever he didn't want to break through would not be able to do so. It was the same even if it was for the players. If that's the case, if I give the chance to break through to LV7 to the players, many of them would probably sell everything they have to buy it. Qin Shujian smiled and immediately got rid of this thought. What was he thinking about? If he gave the players the chance to level up, they might just kill him later. As for the local disciples leveling up, to be honest, Qin Shujian didn't want everyone to get such an opportunity. It was still the same sentence. He wasn't raising a bunch of vermin. If he kept relying on the sect to level up, he would also increase his own strength. Many people would have the heart to slack off. But at the same time, Yuan's sect also lacked middle and high-level cultivators to hold down the fort. The so-called middle and high-level cultivators were measured by the standards of the top sections. For the top sects, the elders of the other sects were at least at the god martial realm. Even the weakest had to be at the peak of the prominent divine realm. If they weren't at that level, they wouldn't have the qualifications to be elders. In comparison, Yuan's sect was far behind. They could either rely on decades to make up for it or take shortcuts to make up for it. Qin Shujian pondered for a moment. Looking at the names on the list, he selected all the elders, as well as some of the deacons with good temperament. For a moment, hundreds of tyrannical auras exploded in the sect. Numerous spiritual deities appeared in the void, suppressing the others to the point that their minds trembled. In the martial arts hall, Xingfang kept the spiritual gods back. Feeling the explosive increase in power in his body, he muttered to himself, "Peak of the spirit martial realm, it seems that the sect has leveled up again." It had to be said. This kind of leveling up would indeed make people involuntarily indulge in it. Cultivating for hundreds of years wasn't as fast as a sect leveling up. However, Shengfang's temperament had been tempered for dozens of years. After a short moment of fluctuation, he calmed down. The sect's leveling up is only temporary. In the end, I still have to rely on myself. He shook his head and forgot about this matter. In a courtyard, Test Jianfeng was giving a lecture when suddenly, a tyrannical power poured into his body, causing his original strength to rise steadily. In the blink of an eye, he reached the peak of the spirit martial realm. "Master?" Seeing this, the expressions of the disciples changed slightly. They seemed to have guessed something. After all, Yuan Zong had leveled up several times. This kind of situation had happened before. However, what they didn't understand was that if his strength had leveled up, why didn't Test Jianfeng have any reaction? Therefore, this was what the disciples weren't sure about. Test Jianfeng closed his eyes. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, "Nothing, today's lecture will end here. You can leave now." "Yes, master." The disciples stood up, bowed and left. After the disciples had left, Test Jianfeng's attention fell on himself. 6th level force. Peak of the spirit martial realm. When Yuan Zong's power level had been upgraded, he had already understood this in his heart. However, Test Jianfeng didn't smile at his own leveling up to the peak of the spirit martial realm. "Although the peak of the spirit martial realm is good, it's a pity that I didn't cultivate step by step. This level is like a pavilion in the sky. It's hard to continue." After Test Jianfeng muttered to himself, his expression changed slightly. No one knew what he was thinking. All of a sudden, he called out his spiritual deity. 150 feet spiritual deity appeared in the sky. At the peak of the spirit martial realm, a normal spiritual deity of 20 feet was the limit. Now, Test Jianfeng was at the peak of the spirit martial realm, but his spiritual deity was only 15 feet. The reason was that he didn't keep up with his subsequent techniques and didn't seriously polish his level. Compared to the real peak of the spirit martial realm, there was still a gap. He looked at his spiritual deity. Test Jianfeng's expression became ruthless. He suddenly unsheathed his long sword and slashed at his spiritual deity. The sword fell. The 15 feet spiritual deity suddenly collapsed. Test Jianfeng spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was frighteningly pale. Just then, his spiritual deity was directly destroyed and his level dropped from the peak of the spirit martial realm to the peak of the genuine martial realm. For a moment, Test Jianfeng's aura was extremely dispirited. The fire of life seemed to be extinguished at any time. He forced himself to take out an elixir from his storage ring and swallowed it. Not long after, the chaotic aura in his body calmed down a little. Feeling the changes in his body, a smile appeared on Test Jianfeng's face. Cut his own level. He had always had this thought. It was just that at that time, he had not avenged the Ji family, and there was the great enemy of the Dingshu sword sect. If he had cut his own level, it would have taken him many years to get revenge with his own strength. From Test Jianfeng's point of view, even if he had to wait for 1 more year, it would be a torture for him. But it was different now. The Dingshu sword sect was destroyed and there were many experts in the origin sect. They did not lack a peak of the spirit martial realm cultivator like him. Therefore, he had cut his own level. Test Jianfeng was confident that he could return to his peak state in a short period of time. At that time, the state that he possessed was the most perfect one. Immediately, Test Jianfeng took out his communication jade talisman and briefly told a few disciples that he was going to cultivate in seclusion. After that, he directly closed the door and did not see anyone. Inside the forbidden grounds, the original 6th grade golden lotus had bloomed and turned into a 10th grade golden lotus. It had directly entered the ranks of 5th grade Dao artifacts. Qin Shujian silently watched the changes of the 6th seal's golden lotus. Just as Test Jianfeng's spiritual soul was forming, he looked down. His gaze penetrated the obstruction of space and landed directly on Test Jianfeng's body. "I was wrong!" Qin Shujian smiled and shook his head as he muttered to himself. He had thought that Test Jianfeng would calmly accept the increase in power brought about by the promotion of power. But now it seemed that Test Jianfeng was more ambitious. He had cut his own level. To be honest, Qin Shujian might not have been able to do it if it were him. Now that Test Jianfeng had cut his own level, he had fallen from the peak of the spirit martial realm to the peak of the true martial realm. It seemed that his strength had weakened a lot. But in Qin Shujian's eyes, what Jianfeng had done made him look at him in a new light. He dared to do this. As long as he did not die halfway, it was not impossible for him to reach the peak in the future. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian's smile was much more carefree. In a few years, our sect will have another god martial realm cultivator. It will also be another heavenly being. Test Jianfeng might not be able to break through to the heavenly being level. After all, heavenly beings were the top experts in the current human race. There were many god martial realm cultivators in the world, but less than 1 in 100 could break through to the heavenly being realm. But in his eyes, Test Jianfeng had a higher chance of breaking through to the heavenly being realm in the future. Even if there is an extra 10% chance, it is still a world of difference. The Origin sect does not lack an expert at the peak of the spirit martial realm. What the Origin sect lacks now is such a cultivator who has the chance to step into the peak. Qin Shujian quickly turned his attention back to the 10th grade golden lotus in front of him. The 10th grade golden lotus. The peak of the 5-seal Dao artifact. After inserting 10,000 luck points, he still had 50,000 luck points on him. The 5-seal Dao artifact is not enough. I still have a lot of luck points. Let's continue to increase it. With a thought, Qin Shujian injected another 10,000 luck points. Rumble! The void trembled. The 10th grade golden lotus trembled violently, and a new lotus leaf appeared from it. And as the golden lotus broke through to the 11th grade, a vast aura spread from the golden lotus. That was not all. When it broke through to the 11th grade golden lotus, another new lotus leaf appeared, but the lotus leaf only grew halfway before it stopped. Seeing this, Qin Shujian injected another 10,000 luck points. Half of the lotus leaf had already finished growing, and the 13th lotus leaf was gradually emerging. Now, there were only 30,000 luck points left. The 12th grade golden lotus is the peak of the 6th sealed Tao artifact. Now that the 13th lotus leaf has grown, it is about to break through to the 7th sealed Tao artifact. Qin Shijian's eyes were burning. To be able to deduce a 7th sealed Tao artifact would be of great benefit to him. But this time, he no longer threw in 10,000 luck points. Instead, he threw in 1,000 luck points into 1,000 luck points. With every infusion of luck points, Lin Fan's luck points would increase. Some lotus leaves grew. Qin Shijian had forgotten how many injections, but the 13th lotus leaf finally grew. Buzz, an invisible wave spread out, and a myriad of Tao rhymes flowed from the 13th grade golden lotus. 7 Tao seals were deeply engraved on the lotus platform, and a vast aura suppressed the void and made it buzz. A 7th sealed Tao artifact. Qin Shijian took a deep breath. Looking at the golden lotus in the void, his divine thought landed on it, urging it to bloom. Then, with a finger seal, the wind and clouds changed. Heavenly Cloud God's sealing finger. Boom! The energy finger bombarded the golden lotus shadow, and then it disappeared without a trace. He looked at the golden lotus shadow again, and it was not affected at all. In this regard, Qin Shijian finally had some understanding of the defense of a 7th sealed Tao artifact. The 11th grade golden lotus is considered a 6th sealed Tao artifact. The 12th grade golden lotus should be able to withstand the attack of a peak saint. As for the 13th grade golden lotus, it has already surpassed the saint level and reached the level of an almighty. He glanced at his luck points. Before he knew it, he had used up 16,000 luck points. In addition to the previous consumption, he had used a total of 46,000 luck points to upgrade a 3 sealed Tao artifact to a 7 sealed Tao artifact. Although the consumption was great, with a 7 sealed Tao artifact in hand, he was basically invincible against anyone below the level of an almighty. However, this was only to a certain extent. If other cultivators also had powerful Tao artifacts in hand, they would still have to flee if they could not defeat them. With the appearance of the 7 sealed Tao artifact, the entire Yuan sect's luck also skyrocketed. In the originally clear sky, there was already a faint yellow color faintly discernible. This was the sign that when the luck reached a certain level, it would turn from illusion to reality. He activated his Dharma eye. The original auspicious beast, the Qilin, had disappeared. He did not know when it had transformed into another form. However, when Qin Shijian saw this form, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he had a strange expression on his face. Isn't this me? Although people did not often look at themselves in the mirror, they could not see what they looked like. However, as a cultivator, how could they not know what they looked like? Above the yellow clouds, a 13-grade lotus platform bloomed. An enlarged version of Qin Shijian sat cross-legged on it, like a high and mighty god. A vast aura suppressed the world. After a moment of shock, Qin Shijian quickly calmed down. Luck was ever-changing, and there was no rule about what it would show up as. Now that the luck had condensed into his appearance, it was probably because most of Yuan sect's luck came from him. This was the only explanation. Besides this, Qin Shijian could not think of any other reason. When the 7 sealed Tao artifact was established, Yuan sect had completely stabilized at the level of a 6th grade force. However, in terms of luck, it would not be so easy to become a 7th grade force for the time being. The limit of a 6th grade force was the peak of the spiritual martial force. A 7th grade force would definitely reach the divine martial force stage. The limit of a 1st or 2nd grade force is the basic martial force. A 3rd or 4th grade force is the true martial force. A 5th or 6th grade force is the spiritual martial force. A 7th or 8th grade force should be the divine martial force. A 9th grade force should be the diviner. Qin Shijian's expression was solemn. He had always thought that the Great Zhao would be a 9th grade force. However, if he were to calculate according to this, The Great Xiao might not be a ninth-grade force. Otherwise, the hidden foundation of the Great Xiao would be too frightening. A ninth-grade force had the upper limit of a diviner. If the Great Xiao was really a ninth-grade force, then they would definitely have a large number of diviner cultivators. However, these are all just guesses. The Great Xiao might not have become a ninth-grade force. If the Great Xiao is really hiding such a terrifying power, then what exactly is the human emperor planning? It shouldn't be to the extent of dealing with a demon. If there really were tens of thousands of diviners, no matter how many experts the demon race had, they should have been wiped out. Qin Shijian's expression changed. He was basically certain that either the Great Xiao was not a ninth-grade force, or the limit of a ninth-grade force was not the diviner, but the divine martial force. Otherwise, it was very difficult to explain these things. However, compared to the latter, his current thoughts were more inclined towards the former. The Great Xiao. Perhaps it really was not a ninth-grade force. However, there was one thing that was unquestionable. That was, the Great Xiao was currently the existence of the highest level of force in the human race. Even the current Yuan zone was very far away from the Great Xiao. After collecting his thoughts, Qin Shijian did not think too much about things for the time being and placed his attention back on himself. On the attribute panel, he still had more than 10,000 luck points. After thinking about it, his spiritual force landed on his storage ring. Then, a bow and an arrow were released. "I'm suffocating!" As soon as the bow of heaven and earth appeared, it screamed exaggeratedly. The days in the storage ring were simply dark and gloomy. The other Tao artifacts were still alright. Although they had spirituality, that spirituality was not strong. Like the bow of heaven and earth, which was similar to an ordinary person, it could only feel that stifling feeling when it was in the storage ring. At this moment, it was released. It felt as if it had been reborn. Until now, the bow of heaven and earth had already forgotten that Qin Shijian had once promised it that he would not stuff it into the storage ring again. Speaking of shamelessness, the person it admired the most in its life was Qin Shijian. However, just as the bow of heaven and earth said that, it was stunned for a few seconds and then cried out involuntarily. "Damn, a seven-sealed Tao artifact! If it had eyes, it would want to rub them hard with its hands right now." Seven-sealed Tao artifact. The bow of heaven and earth almost thought that it had seen wrongly. However, the 13 lotus leaves in the void were slowly rotating, suppressing the aura of the void, causing the bow to tremble uncontrollably. This feeling. It was constantly reminding it that the Tao artifact in front of it was indeed a seven-sealed Tao artifact. After a long time, the bow of heaven and earth floated in front of Qin Shijian and asked in bewilderment, Sect Master, that golden lotus is the previous 6th grade golden lotus?" "Yes." Qin Shijian made a soft sound of acknowledgement. Hearing that, the bow of heaven and earth was so envious that its eyes turned green. Seven-sealed Tao artifact. This was a seven-sealed Tao artifact. To be honest, the bow of heaven and earth had never thought that one day it would be able to advance to a seven-sealed Tao artifact. For it was already satisfied to have the chance to reach the 6th-sealed Tao artifact level. Above the 6th-sealed Tao artifact, it already belonged to another category. Just as the bow of heaven and earth was about to speak again, Qin Shijian directly interrupted it. "Don't talk nonsense." Then, with a thought, 10,000 luck points were injected into it. Rumble! After the golden lotus occupied the void, a long bow rang softly, resounding through heaven and earth. Fortunately, the surroundings were already covered by the array, otherwise, the successive strange phenomena would be enough to attract everyone's attention. 5 Tao seals were engraved on the bow, and the originally transparent bowstring now had a touch of faint golden color. Immediately after, Qin Shijian injected all the remaining luck points into the cloud-piercing arrow. Boom! 1 bow and 1 arrow, as if shooting through the sky. After a long time, only then did the aura gradually calm down. The bow of heaven and earth was in a state of confusion from beginning to end. It had just broken through to a 5-sealed Tao artifact. All of a sudden, the bow of heaven and earth felt as if its eyes were brimming with tears. A 5-sealed Tao artifact. This was a 5-sealed Tao artifact. The surprise came too suddenly, and it felt as if it was caught off guard. However, after being stunned, the bow of heaven and earth was ecstatic. It had broken through to the 5-sealed Tao artifact level. As for the cloud-piercing arrow, although it had not broken through to the 5-seal level, it was also at the peak of the 4-seal level. Now that the bow and arrow were working together, it was confident that it would not be weaker than a 6-sealed Tao artifact. Qin Shujian looked at the bow of heaven and earth in front of him, interrupting the other party's surprise, and asked, "With your current state, with the cloud-piercing arrow, what level can you reach?" "Sect Master, if I go all out, I can even fight against a 6-sealed Tao artifact. It's comparable to a 6-sealed Tao artifact." "Not bad." Qin Shujian nodded, revealing a faint smile on his face. Spiritual companion item. It was indeed blessed by the heavens. Chapter 488. He had spent more than 10,000 luck points. He had obtained the Cosmos Bow and cloud-piercing arrow that were comparable to a 6-sealed Tao artifact. This transaction? It was actually not a loss. At this point, Qin Shujian had used up all his luck points. But even so, the sect's level did not rise to level 7. It remained at level 6. "It's much more difficult to rise to level 7 than level 6. Qin Shujian sighed. He had mentally prepared himself for this. If it was so easy to rise to a level 7 force, there wouldn't be so few experts in the world. Then, Qin Shujian glanced at the Cosmos Bow and said, "If there's nothing else, stay here quietly. Don't go out and show off. If it causes bad consequences, I'll kill you immediately." "Ahem, Sect Master, don't worry. I know what to do," the Cosmos Bow said awkwardly. "Okay." Qin Shujian nodded and simply ignored the other party. Now, he still had a lot of things to do. The 27-square array disc that he had painstakingly forged was gone. However, after breaking through to the second level of the Guru realm, there was no difference whether he had the array disc or not. He had a 7-sealed Tao artifact to suppress the array. Unless a mighty figure made a move, it would not be so easy for others to break the array. While thinking, Qin Shujian had already taken out some materials and planned to start refining the secret realm. Opening up a secret realm. To put it bluntly, it was opening up a space. To put it bluntly, it was evolving a world. But unlike the evolved world, the space secret realm still could not be separated from heaven and earth, and the rules were not perfect. Besides that, it still needed a certain carrier. However, to carry a space secret realm, the carrier was definitely not ordinary. Just as Qin Shujian was about to refine, he stopped what he was doing. "Speaking of which, the current strength of the sect's forging hall and array formation hall is still too weak. I have to take this opportunity to improve." With this thought in mind, he immediately picked up the communication jade talisman and sent out the message. Soon, the news that Qin Shujian was going to refine a divine weapon and open up a space secret realm was completely spread out. "Damn, 10,000 contribution points per viewing. Why doesn't he just rob?" When Lu Dazhong received the news, he finally couldn't help but complain. 10,000 contribution points. This was no different from robbery. What was the use of looking at it? Could it be that he could break through just by looking at it once? That was not right. Perhaps, he might really be able to achieve a breakthrough after taking a look. But 10,000 contribution points is ridiculously expensive. Lu Dazhong still could not accept the fact that refining a divine weapon and opening a secret realm required 10,000 contribution points. 10,000 contribution points. How many demonic beasts and demon clans did he have to kill to accumulate so much? Ordinary missions would reward him with a few contribution points, while some would reward him with a few dozen contribution points. 10,000 contribution points. Almost 90% of the disciples had no hope of watching it. However, those elders who had received the news had excited expressions on their faces. Forging Hall. Xin Yuqing looked excited and said, "The sect master is finally going to make the refining public. The skills of a grand master of forging are extraordinary. If I can observe at once, I might be able to find the possibility of becoming a master." It was impossible for him not to be excited. Master Realm. Once one stepped into this level, one would be considered a famous existence in the cultivation world. The Tao of forging might not have reached the pinnacle, but it was definitely not ordinary. No matter where one went, one would be respected. In some top sects, the strongest forging master was only at the master level. As for grand masters, they were scarce resources. Other than the imperial court, there were only a handful of other forces that had grand masters in their ranks. Although Xin Yuqing had only broken through to the superior grade forging master 1 or 2 years ago, he was still in the stage of polishing. But no matter what, if he could observe it, it would be of great benefit to him. As for the 10,000 contribution points, Xin Yuqing did not care about it at all. The forging hall was famous for being rich. As the hall master, he could also get a lot of commission. In terms of wealth, Xin Yuqing was confident that there were not many people in the entire Yuan sect who could compare to him. In addition to Xin Yuqing, there were also many people in the forging hall who were ready to observe. As for the array formation hall, it was about the same now. Xiang Haogan had been stuck at the peak of the superior grade array formation master realm for a long time, and now he just needed an opportunity to break through. Opening a space secret realm. This obviously required the use of an array formation. Of course, this level was too high and even Xiang Haogan could not understand too much. But this did not stop his desire. Mystic realms. Others might not know, but as a great cultivator of the God martial arts realm, how could Xiang Haogan not know? It was just that there were not many sects that could have mystic realms. Even some of the top sects did not have mystic realms. And these mystic realms, most of them were left behind by experts who had passed away. As for the method of opening a space mystic realm, he had never seen it before. For a moment, many people in the Yuan sect were excited. Most of these people were elders and disciples who majored or minored in array formations or forging. As for the message sent by Qin Shujian, it also indicated that the opening of the space mystic realm this time would be of great help to these two paths. Not counting the other disciples of these two paths, they were also welcome to go and observe. After all, no matter what, it was a heavenly cultivator who did it personally. With the spread of all kinds of Tao rhymes, it would also be helpful to some people's cultivation. Although many people were stuck at the 10,000 contribution points, but there were already many disciples who had used various channels to exchange for some contribution points. As for the players, there were even more ways to exchange for contribution points. In order to ferment the news, Qin Shujian specially set the time for 7 days later to give the others enough time to prepare. After doing these things, he came to the book collection pavilion. "Sect Master!" The deacon guarding the door bowed and saluted. "I'll go in by myself. Don't worry about it." Qin Shujian waved his hand, indicating that the other party did not need to be so polite. The deacon retreated to the side and made way. He opened the door of the book collection pavilion. When Qin Shujian walked in, the space inside suddenly opened up. It was just the first time, and there were many disciples. However, before these disciples could notice anything, Qin Shujian directly disappeared from the first floor. The fourth floor. Wan Taizhu, who was sitting cross-legged and silently cultivating, suddenly twitched his ears and looked around suspiciously, not knowing what he had noticed. "Strange, the fluctuation just now, could it be that I sensed wrongly?" Wan Taizhu was a little uncertain. The entire fourth floor of the book collection pavilion was within the range of his perception. If someone stepped in without permission, it was impossible for him to not notice at all. No one knew what he had thought of. Wan Taizhu suddenly stood up and looked towards the fifth floor. At the entrance of the fifth floor, a familiar back appeared in his eyes. "Greetings, Sect Master! Elder Wang, you don't have to be so polite. It's been hard on you to guard the book collection pavilion for so long." Qin Shujian turned around and looked at Wang Taizhu in front of him, his expression somewhat emotional. The vicious, merciless, and ferocious bandits from before were no longer there. After being in the book collection pavilion for so many years, Wang Taizhu had a touch of peace on his body. Even if he had just directly skyrocketed because of the promotion of the sect, there was not much emptiness. To this, Qin Shujian was also relieved. Obviously, Wang Taizhu was also a talent that could be cultivated on the path of cultivation. Perhaps it was because Yuan sect's luck had increased, so the talents of the people in the sect were more outstanding. But no matter what, with his current state, he could obviously go further in the future. What Yuan sect lacked now was such a talent. Previously, Qin Shujian had found Test Jian Feng, and now he found Wang Taizhu. As for Zheng Fang, Niu Feng and the others, needless to say, to be able to become the three elders, they had their own unique points. There were more and more talents in Yuan sect now. Wang Taizhu on the side also did not know that Qin Shujian had so many thoughts in such a short period of time. Hearing this, he cupped his hands and said, "Sect Master, you're too kind. It's my honor to guard the book collection pavilion. If not for being able to cultivate here in peace, my strength may not have improved much." Qin Shujian replied. Without chatting too much with Wang Taizhu, he directly entered the 5th floor of the book collection pavilion. On the 5th floor of the book collection pavilion, it was no longer the same as before, when there was only an empty space without anything placed. In the 5th floor of the book collection pavilion, there were several crystals floating quietly. These few crystal stones. They were the God Realm cultivation methods and God Realm martial arts obtained from the Heavenly Corpse sect. Subsequently, Qin Shujian took out a few more crystals and placed them here. These few crystal stones. They were the legacy cultivation methods of Du Chunwu and Shinhong. When the inheritance crystals appeared, the original inheritance crystals seemed to have sensed something. They trembled slightly and an indescribable aura spread out. It was as though they were rejecting something. At the same time, the 2 inheritance crystals of the Du family also emitted a subtle aura, contending with the aura of the Heavenly Corpse sect. As for the inheritance crystals of the Shin family, they also joined in. Suddenly, in the 5th floor of the book collection pavilion, a deep and vast aura pervaded and filled the space. However, these fluctuations were all consciously dispersed when they were about to touch Qin Shujian, as if they did not dare to make things difficult for him. Immediately after, Qin Shujian took out another inheritance crystal and placed it directly inside. Buzz! As soon as this inheritance crystal appeared, it immediately erupted with a vast aura, like a falling galaxy, suppressing the other crystals in one fell swoop. This crystal. It was the Guiyuan ancestral scripture that Qin Shujian cultivated himself. God Realm cultivation methods and martial arts were not divided into high and low ranks. In fact, there were differences in strength. The Guiyuan ancestral scripture was deduced by him using his luck points. According to the system, it should belong to the top few among the God Realm cultivation methods. Whether it was the inheritance of the Heavenly Corpse sect or the inheritance of the Du and Shin families. Compared to this cultivation technique, it was a level weaker. The inheritance is perfect, reaching the heavenly realm. From now on, Yuanzhong has the capital to confront any forces in the world. The only thing that is lacking now is enough time. Qin Shujian took a deep breath, feeling a sense of pride in his heart. Now Yuanzhong's wealth could be said to be accumulated by him bit by bit. To be able to have such achievements. If Qin Shujian said that he was not proud, then he would be lying to himself and others. However, the Guiyuan ancestral scripture that he placed in the book collection pavilion this time was still the abridged version. The method that could give birth to the Red Lotus of Purgation was separately removed. Not only that, even the original version that could allow one to cultivate the Wisdom King Hellfire was also abridged. After all, these two methods could be said to be a bug in improving one's strength. Unless it was absolutely necessary. Qin Shujian would not easily leak it out. On the other side. Marquis Mansion of Baiyun. Marquis Baiyun was flipping through books in the study. Suddenly his eyes turned cold, and he shouted, "Who dares to spy on my Marquis Mansion of Baiyun?" As soon as he finished speaking, the space was slightly distorted, and a person stepped out from it. Seeing this, Marquis Baiyun's heart skipped a beat, and there was a look of shock on his face. However, when he saw the person who came, he still got up and bowed. "Xiao Chengfeng greets Your Majesty." "Marquis Baiyun, rise." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Marquis Baiyun straightened up, then looked at the human emperor in front of him, and asked, "Your Majesty, why have you come to my Marquis Mansion so late at night?" He was also a little surprised by the arrival of the human emperor. He also did not expect. The other party had already gone deep into his Marquis Mansion before he was detected. Even that wisp of aura that was detected might not have been sensed by him, but it might have been deliberately leaked by the human emperor. Thinking of this, Marquis Baiyun was even more shocked. One had to know. As an almighty, the only person in the world who could do this in front of him was the human emperor in front of him. Apart from that, there was no one else who could do it. The human emperor put his hands behind his back and looked at Marquis Baiyun with a look of appreciation on his face. After Yutian's death, the Xiao family must be able to rest in peace to have a genius like you. The previous Marquis Baiyun, Xiao Yutian. He was the person who had followed him for many years. When he looked at Xiao Chengfeng now, the human emperor vaguely saw the shadow of Xiao Yutian. However, compared to Xiao Yutian, Marquis Baiyun was even more outstanding. Almighty! To be honest, when the other party revealed this realm, he was also surprised. And the human emperor also saw every move of Marquis Baiyun in the Baiyun Mansion. For this, the human emperor only felt gratified, but he had no intention of blaming him. Even if the other party only guarded Zayan's city later, it was still the same. Hearing this, Marquis Baiyun fell silent. Now that the human emperor was here, the other party did not state his purpose, but several thoughts flashed through his mind, guessing what his purpose was. Could it be about the incident in Zayan's city back then, and now he was here to denounce him? As if seeing the guess in Marquis Baiyun's heart, the human emperor smiled and said, "You don't have to be nervous. I'm not here today to denounce you, but to ask for your help." "What can I do for you, Your Majesty?" "It's very simple. I want to borrow Zhu Bing from you." The human emperor still smiled, but his eyes fell on Marquis Baiyun as if he had seen through all the other party's secrets. Boom! As for Marquis Baiyun, after hearing the human emperor's words, his mind exploded. Zhu Bing! The human emperor knew that he had Zhu Bing in his hands. One had to know that ever since he obtained Zhu Bing, he had only used it a few times. And every time, he was extremely cautious. Under such circumstances, how could the human emperor know that he had Zhu Bing in his hands? As his mind churned, Marquis Baiyun's expression changed slightly, and then he said with a puzzled look, "Your Majesty's words make me a little confused. How can there be Zhu Bing in the Baiyun Mansion? You're still too vigilant against me." The human emperor shook his head and laughed, saying, "No one in the world can hide what I want to know. This time, I came here to borrow Zhu Bing, not to seize Zhu Bing. If I wanted to seize Zhu Bing, I wouldn't have waited until now." Hearing this, Marquis Baiyun fell silent again. In his mind, the voice sounded, "He has noticed my existence. I didn't expect that the human clan had already produced such a powerful expert. It's surprising." The human emperor said, "Zhu Bing is now suppressing the seal of the demon abyss and can't use lightness skills. The demon clan has the heavenly demon temple. If I want to destroy the demon clan, I need another Zhu Bing to destroy the heavenly demon temple. After the demon clan is destroyed, Zhu Bing will naturally be returned. You can rest assured that I always keep my word. Your Majesty, Chengfeng naturally believes your words." Marquis Baiyun smiled and no longer denied it. He said, Your Majesty, when are you going to take Zhu Bing? The sooner the better. In 3 days, Your Majesty will come to the Baiyun mansion again. Chiffon will give Zhu Bing to you. Okay. The human emperor nodded slightly, and then he didn't talk too much nonsense with the other party. His body emitted a subtle fluctuation, and then he disappeared from the study. He came quickly. He also left quickly. Even though he said it with his own eyes, Marquis Baiyun didn't see clearly what means the other party used when he left. Does it involve spatial means? This is void teleportation. Void teleportation? That's right. The voice in his mind sounded with some shock. I thought that the strongest person of the human clan was only at the limit of the celestial being realm, but now it seems that the current human emperor has transcended this category. Void teleportation is not something a celestial being can do. To put it bluntly, this method is called so close, yet worlds apart, but it's more profound than so close, yet worlds apart. He knew that the other party had obtained the legacy of the heavenly court, so his strength was definitely not simple. But even if he was not simple, he didn't think that he could transcend the celestial being realm. After all, taking that step was not something that could be achieved by obtaining the legacy of the heavenly court. You mean that the human emperor has successfully broken through? Marquis Baiyun's expression changed again. Above the celestial being realm. What kind of realm was that? To be honest, it had been too long since the human clan had an expert above the celestial being realm. If this voice hadn't mentioned it, he would have thought that such an expert had never been born in the history of the human clan. The celestial being realm was the peak. This was a view that everyone in the world agreed with. Hearing this, the voice said, yes and no. What do you mean? What realm is above the celestial being realm? Above the celestial being realm is immortal. Immortal! Marquis Baiyun's expression was solemn. The word, immortal, made him feel invisible pressure. The voice said, immortals are all supreme experts in the heavenly court. Once they reach the immortal realm, to a certain extent, they can be considered immortal. To a certain extent, you mean that immortals also have a lifespan limit? Marquis Baiyun accurately captured the words contained in the other party's words. Yes, the lifespan limit of immortals is 129,600 years. This is the real limit of heaven and earth. No matter what method is used, the limit of heaven and earth can't be broken. The voice said. 129,600 years. The limit of heaven and earth. Marquis Baiyun murmured. 129,600 years. In that case, it can be considered immortality. Of course. 129,600 years. Such a long period of time is enough to witness too many things. However, not everyone is satisfied with a mere 129,600 years. For some immortals, what they pursue is true immortality. Is there anyone who can live forever? No, the voice denied. After a while it added, even the Emperor of Heaven couldn't do it. If the Emperor of Heaven could live forever, how could he die? Marquis Baiyun said. You mean that the human emperor has broken through the limit of the celestial being and reached the immortal realm? That's not right. If you have something to say, say it all at once. There's no point in beating around the bush. Marquis Baiyun's face darkened. No matter how good-tempered he was. Now, he was a little angry. Every time he spoke halfway, he would have to guess for a long time before he realized that he had guessed everything wrong. These things left from ancient times were good except for one thing. They liked to be mysterious. Ahem! The voice coughed twice and didn't continue to beat around the bush. It said, the human emperor shouldn't have broken through to the immortal realm, but he did break the limit of the celestial being. There is another realm between the celestial being and the immortal realm. This realm is called Nirvana. Nirvana is like being reborn from fire. People in this realm already have the capital to become an immortal, but their foundation is insufficient, and they can't completely transform. The current human emperor is in this Nirvana state of being reborn from fire. Once he succeeds in Nirvana, he can skyrocket and become an unparalleled immortal. But whether it was in the past or now, it's not easy to become an immortal. In the past, when the 10,000 races were combined, the number of powerhouses was innumerable, but there were only 365 powerhouses who truly became immortals. However, with the collapse of the heavenly court, all the immortals have fallen. With the current foundation of the human clan, it's not completely impossible to give birth to an immortal, but the probability is very small. Previously, we said that the human emperor must have other plans for faking his death. Judging from the current situation, his so-called plan should be to prepare for becoming an immortal. That voice didn't stop. It explained everything in a single breath. Marquis Bayun sat where he was and listened to the other party silently. There were many things. If the other party didn't say it, he wouldn't know. Above the celestial being, if one wanted to become an immortal, they had to go through nirvana. As for how to achieve nirvana, Marquis Bayun didn't ask. Because he hadn't even reached the limit of the celestial being, so it was still too early to talk about nirvana. However, he finally understood why the human emperor was so powerful. And the other party's plan was also unexpected. Become an immortal! Chapter 489. Fallen Moon Mansion. The Celestial Array sect was much more low-key now. During this period of time, most of the sects that had joined the rebels and besieged the imperial city had been destroyed. Among them, 3 of the top sects were directly destroyed by the imperial court. The top sects in the world. There weren't many of them to begin with. First, the Heavenly Corpse sect was destroyed by Yuanzong, and then 3 sects were eradicated by the imperial court, causing the number of top sects to sharply decrease. This caused the entire cultivation world to be in danger. However, these sects were afraid, but they didn't dare to complain to the imperial court. It used to be okay. The human emperor's lifespan was coming to an end, and he didn't appear in person for many things, causing the sects to gradually forget his power. This time, after the human emperor faked his death and came back to life, he easily killed the 4 demon saints and killed all the rebels. Only then did they recall the human emperor's supreme power and influence. The Celestial Array sect didn't participate in the rebellion. However, Marquis Du Qingwu was one of the masterminds of the rebellion. It was better to be safe than sorry. If the imperial court didn't like the Celestial Array sect and destroyed it while cleaning up the rebels of the fallen Moon Mansion, Mu Liang wouldn't even have a place to cry. As for whether the cultivation world would resist if the Celestial Array sect was destroyed for no reason. If Xiyan were to sit on the throne, there would indeed be such a possibility. However, now that the human emperor was on the throne, who dared to show up easily? With the human emperor's power, no one could resist him even if he swept across the entire cultivation world. Therefore, the Celestial Array sect was very low-key now. They didn't close the door, but it was close. However, now that the fallen Moon Mansion had calmed down and the imperial court didn't take any action, Mu Liang gradually felt relieved. On this day, Mu Liang had just come to find Fang Xinglan. Before he could speak, Fang Xinglan spoke first. I need to leave the Celestial Array sect for a while. Where are you going, Martial Uncle? Mu Liang was stunned. Fang Xinglan said, Bayun Mansion, Mount Liang's spiritual domain. Martial Uncle, you've also heard the news that Yuanzong is going to open a space secret realm? Mu Liang suddenly understood why Fang Xinglan left. Hearing this, Fang Xinglan did not find it strange that Mu Liang knew about it. He nodded and replied, To be able to open up a spatial secret realm, he must be at least at the 2nd stage of Grand Master. In the end, he still walked ahead of me. If I can observe it for a bit, I might be able to find an opportunity to advance further. The 2nd level of the Master Realm. Qin Shujian was now considered the number 1 array Dao cultivator in the world of cultivation. Now, apart from the Imperial Court, there might be a 2nd level array master. In the cultivation world, excluding Qin Shujian, there was no 2nd level array master. The Heavenly Deployment sect ranked as a top sect because of its formations. When it came to array Dao, There was no one in the world who could match him. Furthermore, the Heavenly Array sect was also known as the world's #1 array sect. However, with the appearance of Qin Shujian, the title of the world's #1 array formation sect might change hands to Fang Xinglan. The change of this title was also a blow to the Heavenly Array sect. However, he had no other choice. After all, he was not as good as Fang Xinglan. What was there to say? In Fang Xinglan's opinion, since he was not as good as Qin Shujian in terms of formations, he should find a way to observe his formation. Even if he could not compete with him in the future, if he had the chance to enter the second stage of Grandmaster, it would be enough to make the Heavenly Array sect famous. Mu Liang said in a deep voice. But uncle, Yuanzong may not give outsiders the opportunity to observe the space secret realm this time. If you go, you may make a wasted trip. Everything in the world is driven by interests. Fang Xinglan shook his head and said calmly, Qin Shujian puts interests first. If he doesn't agree, it can only mean that we don't give enough benefits. Uncle, what are you going to give Yuanzong? We will give him whatever he wants. Mu Liang frowned instinctively. Giving him whatever he wanted was completely ignoring the existence of him, the sect master. However, Mu Liang really did not dare to say anything to Fang Xinglan. He was the sect master in name only. It was the uncle in front of him who maintained the status of the Heavenly Array sect as a top sect. On the other hand, he himself. His array Dao cultivation was only at the master level. Although he was at the peak of the divine martial realm, he was not at the diviner level. In all aspects, he was neither high nor low. It was also because of this that Mu Liang was now in a relatively awkward position. Ahem, uncle, if you can also get me a spot. Mu Liang was a little embarrassed and said, You see, I have been stuck at the master level for a long time. If I can break through, the power of the Heavenly Array sect will definitely be stronger. 2 masters in one sect. There was no doubt that the power of the Heavenly Array sect was stronger. However, in Fang Xinglan's eyes, his martial nephew did not necessarily want to break through to the Array Down master level for the Heavenly Array sect. Soon, he suppressed this thought. No matter what the other party's purpose was, it was just his own guess. As the sect master of the Heavenly Array sect, Mu Liang's current strength was indeed rather awkward. I understand, Fang Xinglan said and then left the Heavenly Array sect. Although Qin Shujian opened the space secret realm 7 days later, there were only about 4 days left in the 7 days since the news spread to the Fallen Moon Mansion and the time that had passed. Yuan Sect, Cold Mountain City. Qin Shujian had not been idle these few days. After giving the disciples enough time to prepare, he came here. The purpose of coming to Cold Mountain City was very simple. That was to build a cultivation room. The so-called cultivation room was the same as the one in Yuan Sect. There were spirit stones below, and it was specially for other people to cultivate. The difference was, the cultivation room in the sect was for the people in the sect. The cultivation room in Cold Mountain City was for other people to use. Qin Shujian had always had this idea. It was just that there was a shortage of spirit stones and building a cultivation room required a lot of spirit stones. Therefore, this plan had been put on hold. Now that he had more than 1,000 spirit stones in his hands, he did not have so many scruples. As for building a cultivation room in Cold Mountain City, it was actually a profitable business. Everyone knew that. In order to improve quickly, in addition to cultivation methods and resources, a large amount of spirit chi of heaven and earth was needed for one to absorb and cultivate. Cultivating in the cultivation room for 1 day was equivalent to cultivating outside for 3 days. Although 2 days was not a long time. However, if this time was measured in terms of days, months, or even years, the span was terrifying. 1 year of cultivation was equivalent to 3 years of normal cultivation. 10 years was equivalent to 30 years. 100 years was equivalent to 300 years. Although this seemed exaggerated, if the spirit chi in the cultivation room was always abundant, it was not impossible. For some cultivators with average talent, if they cultivated under normal circumstances, they might not be able to break through to the next level even when their lifespan was depleted. However, if they cultivated in the cultivation room, there might be hope for them to break through. However, to build a cultivation room, it had to be built with spirit stones as the foundation. For anyone, spirit stones were an unattainable treasure. Some sects might have some spirit stones, but it was not enough for their own cultivation. Why would they give it to others to cultivate? Therefore, Qin Shujian could be sure. Once the cultivation room was built in Cold Mountain City, the people who heard about it would definitely come in droves. When that time came, it would be much easier to make money. When the time comes, the cultivation room will require contribution points to enter. As for the contribution points consumed, I will charge 3 times the amount in the sect. In this way, the Yuan sect's contribution points will have another place to spend. Qin Shujian thought to himself. Currently, in the sect, if one used the cultivation room to cultivate, it would cost 100 contribution points, and then one could cultivate for 3 days. 3 times the amount, it would cost 300 contribution points to cultivate for 5 days. Looking at the situation of silver taels being exchanged for contribution points, 200 taels of silver for 1 contribution point, then 1 cultivation session would cost about 60,000 taels of silver. It seemed that the fee was not high. However, it should be known that 60,000 taels of silver for 3 days, 6 million taels of silver for 300 days, and 60 million taels of silver for 3,000 days. On the market, 1 spirit stone was worth about 10 million taels of silver. In the Yuan sect, it would only be worth 40 million taels of silver. Of course, the price was one thing, and whether or not anyone would sell it was another. However, it could be seen that the cultivation room was basically a profitable business with little capital. If it wasn't for the fact that I don't need any spirit stones for cultivation, and only need the source of life, I might not be willing to take out the spirit stones for others to use. Qin Shujian shook his head. His purpose of doing this was still to build the sect. Although the Yuan sect had many properties now, and with the support of the Yuan sect, it would not be a problem to cultivate the current disciples. However, not long after, the Yuan sect would open its doors again. When that time came to recruit disciples, it would require a huge amount of resources to cultivate them. If they wanted to have enough experts, then they would need to use resources to build them up. Otherwise, how could Yuan Zong possess so many experts? While Qin Shujian was deep in thought, a deacon came forward, cupped his hands, and said, "Sect Master, the site to build the cultivation room has been found." "Okay, bring me there." "Yes." The deacon had a respectful expression as he led the way. From beginning to end, he did not dare to show the slightest disrespect. With Qin Shujian's current power in the Yuan sect, no one dared to be disrespectful to him. As the Yuan sect became more and more famous, all the places in Liangshan City, except for the city master's mansion, were occupied by others. A large number of shops, restaurants, and inns were opened. Qin Shujian wanted to clear out a place. Naturally, he needed to buy some shops and vacate the place. As for the method of buying, it was very simple. He would use money. Moreover, when these people heard that the Yuan sect needed to buy, no one would not know what was good for them. Therefore, the matter progressed very smoothly. The Yuan sect was developing in an orderly manner. However, the entire Great Zhao world was full of soldiers and horses, full of murderous intent. It had been more than half a month since the human emperor issued the edict that they would attack the demon clan in a month. Everyone knew that. The time for the human clan to attack the demon clan was not far. Many sects wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to get a share of the pie. After all, the human emperor had said that any human clan member could participate in the war. This meant that he had tacitly agreed to the participation of those who were not part of the imperial court. To these sections, the demon clan had occupied the endless mountain range for so many years and had countless resources in their hands. These resources, even if a trace of them fell into their hands, it would be enough for a sect to develop and grow. Therefore, these sects naturally would not let go of this opportunity. Marquis Bayun's mansion. 3 days later, the human emperor arrived as promised. In the same study. Compared to the first accident, the Marquis Bayun had already prepared for it this time. Your Majesty! I've come as you said. I want to borrow Zhu Bing, the human emperor said. As he spoke, he waved his sleeves and set up a protective boundary around them. Hearing this, without hesitation, the Marquis Bayun cupped his hands to the side and said, Zhu Bing, please show yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, the void distorted violently, and an ancient and deep aura spread out from it. In an instant, the surrounding space became stagnant. Fortunately, the human emperor had set up a boundary in advance, so that this fluctuation did not spread out. In the distorted void, a stone spear appeared from it. On the blood-stained spear, there seemed to be endless gods, demons, immortals, and saints roaring and wailing. Seeing this, the human emperor's expression was also solemn, and he praised. What a killing weapon! After that, he solemnly cupped his hands to the stone spear and said, I'm Xin Tian of the human clan. Greetings, Zhu Bing! Zhu Bing! It was the condensation of the fate of a clan, and it was an existence that protected the human clan since ancient times. The stone spear in front of him was Zhu Bing of the human clan. From the blood of the gods and demons on the spear, it could be seen that the other party had once fought for the human clan, killed powerful enemies, and protected an area. Therefore, the human emperor had great respect for this. You're too polite, human emperor. May I ask what Zhu Bing's name is? John Doe. Hearing this, the human emperor couldn't help but be silent for a moment, then he cupped his hands and said, Today, I want to borrow Zhu Bing just to kill the demon clan. I wonder if Zhu Bing is willing to help. Yes. A simple word came out from the stone spear. Thank you. The human emperor smiled slightly, reached out to hold Zhu Bing, and then put it away. After that, he looked at Marquis Bayun and said, Marquis Bayun, are you willing to go to the demon clan with me? Now? Marquis Bayun was stunned. According to the human emperor, the other party was going to kill the demon clan now. The human emperor smiled and said, Let's go and take a look. If we can destroy the demon clan, then we'll do it. If we can't, then we'll have a good fight with them in a few days. How about it? Are you interested in going with me? Your Majesty, how dare I disrespect you? In that case, come with me. After that, he directly removed the barrier and then took the lead to leave the Marquis Bayun's mansion. This time, the human emperor didn't use the void teleportation method. Instead, he directly flew into the air and turned into a stream of light. Behind him, Marquis Bayun followed closely. In the sky, the two turned into streams of light and fled. With the eyesight of ordinary cultivators, they couldn't find anything at all. Liang Mountain Spiritual Domain. Yuan Sect. The cultivation room in Liang Mountain City had been opened, and Qin Shujian was also waiting in the Forbidden Grounds at this time. Rather than saying that he was cultivating, it was better to say that he was adjusting his state to prepare for the opening of the space secret realm in a few days. At this moment, two streams of light flashed across the Liang Mountain spiritual domain. In the Forbidden Grounds, Qin Shujian suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the two streams of light disappearing in the sky. His face immediately darkened. Just now, he had been stepped over by someone over his head. Sect Master Qin was a dignified cultivator of the heavenly human grass. But soon, Qin Shijian reacted. Those who can have such speed in the world are at least experts of the heavenly human realm. Although those two auras are obscure, they are a little familiar. The auras were somewhat familiar, but he couldn't figure out who they were for a while. The main reason was that their auras were too obscure. Then, Qin Shujian looked in the direction that the two had gone. The endless mountain range? The demon clan! Suddenly, he felt a little itchy in his heart. At this time, the Forbidden Grounds couldn't sit still anymore. They directly flew into the sky and chased after the two. There was no other reason. Qin Shujian just wanted to see if there was a chance to take advantage of the demon clan. With his current strength, he didn't need to worry too much. Even if he faced a demon saint almighty, he was confident that he could escape. However, how many almighty figures were there in the world? 4 of the 12 demon saints of the demon clan had died, and there were about the same number of almighty figures on the human clan's side. In this regard, Qin Shujian naturally had no reason to be afraid. Soon, Qin Shujian turned into a stream of light and followed closely behind the human emperor and Marquis Baiyun. In terms of speed, he was much slower than the two of them. However, his heavenly human perception was powerful. Although he couldn't catch up, he could still barely follow behind them. Interesting. The human emperor smiled, and the movement behind him naturally couldn't be hidden from him. However, he didn't intend to stop Qin Shujian. Originally, he wanted to test the strength of the demon clan this time. At this time, it didn't matter if there was one more person or one less person. Although Qin Shujian was at the first level of the heaven realm, with the means of the second level of the Grand Master, he could barely be considered an expert at the same realm. Beside him, Marquis Baiyun didn't say anything. Since the human emperor didn't have any objections, he didn't have any objections either. Anyway, entering the demon clan this time was just to accompany the other party. As for whether the human emperor could destroy the demon clan by himself, to be honest, he wasn't sure. The human emperor was very strong. He was a Nirvana realm expert who surpassed the heaven realm and was close to becoming an immortal. But the demon clan wasn't weak either. In terms of foundation, the demon clan was not much worse than the human clan. No one knew if the demon emperor had left any means behind back then. At the back, Qin Shujian chased all the way while flipping through his memories in his mind, trying to find the source of these two auras. He didn't know many heaven realm experts. It was just that when he fought in the Imperial City, he had encountered many experts of this level. After a while, Qin Shujian's pupils constricted slightly. Looking at the two streams of light in front of him, his expression changed. Human Emperor! Marquis Baiyun! Although the two auras were subtle, they couldn't hide from his perception at this time. It was just that the two of them had restrained their auras too subtly. Otherwise, as long as he felt the aura of the human emperor once, he would never forget it. The human emperor and Marquis Baiyun were going to the demon clan. After knowing this, Qin Shujian was already guessing what their purpose was. Are they going to the demon clan now to talk about attacking the demon clan? Qin Shujian wasn't sure. However, he had no intention of turning back. If he could sense the existence of the human emperor and Marquis Baiyun, then with their strength, they must have also sensed his existence. Since the two of them didn't say anything, it was equivalent to being unfamiliar with him. To this, Qin Shujian naturally wouldn't turn back halfway. If the human emperor and Marquis Baiyun really wanted to barge into the demon clan, he might be able to take advantage of this opportunity to gain some benefits. At this moment, the three of them had already gone deep into the endless mountain range. In the heavenly demon temple, all the demon saints suddenly opened their eyes. Zai Xing's expression changed drastically, and he shouted, "Human powerhouses have entered the endless mountain range!" Ever since the demon clan retreated, he had been thinking about how to deal with the next attack of the human clan. Right now, the most terrifying person in the entire human clan was the human emperor. Although the demon clan was strong, they didn't have the confidence to fight against the human emperor. Therefore, the entire demon clan was now jittery. All the demon saints' divine senses had been sweeping back and forth in the mountain range in order to prevent powerhouses from attacking the demon clan. Although the human emperor and the others hid some of their auras, they didn't do it too deliberately. Therefore, after entering the range of the demon saints' perception, they were immediately detected. "This aura is a little familiar," a demon saint said in a deep voice with a solemn expression. They hadn't left the heavenly demon temple for many years. It was a somewhat familiar aura. It proved that the person who came must be a human powerhouse from thousands of years ago. Zaishin closed his eyes and deduced something. In less than a few seconds, he suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes were red as if he had gone crazy. The human emperor is here. Boom! All the demon saints' hearts shook wildly, and their faces were full of horror. The human emperor! The human emperor was here! After the shock, a demon saint gritted his teeth. What does the human clan mean? The human emperor came alone. Does he want to destroy the demon clan with his own strength? Whether it is or not, we have to face this matter. Zaishing's voice was hoarse, and his fists were unconsciously clenched. It didn't matter what the human clan's purpose was. The most important thing now was to resist the human emperor's attack. Otherwise, the demon clan's inheritance for so many years would come to an end. At this moment, all the demon saints looked at each other. The next moment, a vast power converged into the entire heavenly demon temple. Rumble! The sky shook. A resplendent light rose from the heavenly demon temple and shot into the sky. The sky, which was supposed to be black, was dispelled the moment the light appeared. The light beam soared into the sky and turned into a huge barrier, covering the entire endless mountain range. It was a sudden change. It directly attracted the attention of all the demon clan. In front of the power of this light beam, even the demon kings felt small. As for the human emperor and the others, the moment the light beam appeared, a terrifying impact swept toward them. In the face of this attack, the human emperor launched a finger attack, and the finger energy shattered the void and collided with the impact. Crack! The sky exploded, and it was deafening. As for Marquis Bayun, he also launched an attack to resist this force. Behind him, Qin Shujian held up his 13th grade golden lotus and looked at the power that the demon clan had erupted. His eyes were also filled with shock. This is the foundation of the demon clan. He had long known that the demon clan's strength was extraordinary. Just this burst of energy alone could injure an ordinary celestial being. Without the 13th grade golden lotus, Qin Shujian was not confident that he could escape unscathed. Chapter 490. The human emperor is invading. Don't move! Zaishing's voice resounded throughout the demon race. Some of the heavenly human demons and demon kings who were about to attack stopped at this moment. The human emperor was invading. The news of the human emperor killing 4 demon saints outside the imperial city had also spread. At this time, no one dared to move. The gap between the two sides was too great. If they were not careful, they would be courting death. At this moment, the shield opened and protected the entire demon race. Then, the shadow of a great hall suddenly descended and turned into a vast world. A hazy figure appeared in it, and Zaishing's voice came from it. Xietian, what are you doing here? What do you think? The human emperor put his hands behind his back and looked at the world in front of him with a cold expression. Beside him was the Marquis of Northern Cloud. On the other side, Qin Shujian did not hide his figure at this time. He directly came to Marquis Bayun's side and then looked at him. Both of them nodded but did not say anything. The main character now was the human emperor. Whether it was Marquis Bayun or himself, they were just bystanders. Therefore, Qin Shujian had already decided to wait and see how the situation developed. Zaishing said, "The demon race has retreated to the endless mountain range for thousands of years. Why do you have to force them? A month ago, the demon race attacked the great Zhao dynasty and caused the deaths of many humans. This debt will be settled sooner or later. The demon race also paid the price of 4 demon saints. Not enough. 4 demon saints are far from enough." The human emperor shook his head. Immediately, a vast aura spread from his body, shaking the void violently. It was as if a world had evolved from under his feet. A few demon saints want to pay the blood debt of the human race. More than 6,000 years ago, the demon race relied on the heavenly demon temple to get a chance to recuperate. Today, I'll see if the heavenly demon temple is really unbreakable. As soon as he finished speaking, The heaven and earth beneath his feet crushed down and collided with the vast heaven and earth that Zexing had created. Boom! The void cracked, and endless black lines appeared from within. Immediately after, the human emperor struck out with his palm, and a 300-meter-long palm energy fell. It was enough to suppress heaven and earth. On the other side, the blurry silhouette dissipated and turned into a huge demon. The demon had a single horn on his head and a goatee, but he had the body of a lion. Terrifying power erupted from the horn and tore the palm apart in an instant. "Bai Zai!" the human emperor sneered. With a tap of his finger, the space caved in. Bai Zai let out a furious roar. His massive body charged forward, attempting to crush the Renhuang. The human emperor did not move, but his solid stellar chi turned into a barrier of heaven and earth that appeared in front of him. The barrier shattered. Bai Zai's attack was also neutralized. Immediately after that, the human emperor took a step forward and vanished. In the next instant, he appeared above Bai Zai. His leg was like a bolt of lightning that directly smashed the space within a 50 kilometers radius. Boom! Bai Zai's body flew out, shattering countless clouds. Just as the human emperor was about to give chase, Bai Zai's body transformed into a gigantic 9-headed monster. It let out a baby-like cry, which made Qin Shijian's expression change slightly. This sound went straight to the depths of his heart. It made the spirit god's qi and blood in his body slightly turbulent. Then, the 9-headed monster spat out flames and turned the sky into a vast sea of fire. The human emperor waved his hand and shot out endless stellar qi that seemed to cover the sky and the earth, drowning the sea of fire. At this moment, Qin Shijian was completely reduced to a spectator. Even Marquis Baiyun was no exception. Whether it was the human emperor or the demon, their strength was not comparable to that of ordinary almighties. Especially Marquis Baiyun. Others thought that the human emperor was a heavenly being, but he knew that the other party had reached the Nirvana realm and was only one step away from the legendary immortal. This kind of strength, even with a raise of his hand, he could kill ordinary almighties. It could be seen from the fact that the other party had killed 4 demon saints. In terms of strength, although Marquis Baiyun was confident that he was not weaker than a demon saint, he was absolutely not confident that he could kill a demon saint without using Zhu Bing. Now, the demon could compete with the human emperor, which meant that even if its strength had not broken through the limit of the heavenly being, it was definitely not far off. At this moment, the human emperor's body seemed to be infinitely large, and all kinds of Taoist rhymes flowed around his body. Immediately after, he formed a seal with one hand and blasted it down heavily. Roar! The 9 heads of the 9-headed demon spat out black ice, and a white trail of frost spread out in the space, as if to completely seal the human emperor. However, when the hand seal fell, all the frost turned into powder. In the end, the 9-headed monster let out a blood-curdling scream and finally dissipated into nothingness. In the heavenly demon temple, all the demon saints spat out a mouthful of blood. The 9-headed monster that fought with the human emperor was a powerful existence that they had created with the help of the heavenly demon temple and the power of all the demon saints. Now, the 9-headed monster had collapsed. All the demon saints had suffered serious injuries. Zexing's expression was extremely solemn as he said, "The human emperor is even stronger. We have no way out. If we don't fight with all our might, we will die." Hearing this, the other demon saints also looked very solemn. How could they not understand Zexing's words? In the face of a powerhouse at the level of the human emperor, unless all the powerhouses of the demon clan came out, there might be a possibility of perishing together with the other party. But when that time came, the demon clan was basically crippled. How could the remaining demon clan soldiers resist the army of the human clan? Zexing looked at the other demon saints and said solemnly, "Next, I will completely activate the power of the heavenly demon temple. All of you should be mentally prepared." A demon saint was unafraid of death and laughed. "After living for so many years, I have long lived enough. To be able to use this broken body to make one last contribution to the demon clan, I can die in peace. That's right. If our deaths can be exchanged for the longevity of the demon clan, that will be enough. The other demon saints were also unafraid of death. To completely activate a Zhu Bing was not something that one or two powerhouses could do. In the past, the 12 demon saints of the demon clan joined forces to activate the heavenly demon temple. Now, with only 8 demon saints, if they wanted to truly activate the heavenly demon temple, they would die if they were not careful. However, no demon saints, including Zai Xing, were afraid because of this. For them, life and death were not something that they cared about, but they could see it more clearly. Compared to being able to exchange for the foundation of the demon clan's survival, the death of a demon saint was also acceptable. After reaching an agreement, the power of all the demon saints was injected into the heavenly demon temple. The Zhu Bing, which had been silent for thousands of years, finally woke up at this moment. In the sky, tens of thousands of yellow clouds clustered together. As the power of the heavenly demon temple appeared, the vast demon court evolved above the yellow clouds. Zai Xing was dressed in an imperial robe and sat on the throne of the demon court, as if he was announcing to the world, "From today onwards, I am the demon emperor." As soon as he finished speaking, many demon clan members prostrated on the ground and shouted, "We kowtow to the demon emperor." As soon as he finished speaking, countless power surged out from the demon clan and gathered in the imperial court. Demon clan divine generals were formed and sat in the 4 corners of the demon court. The aura emitted by each demon clan divine general was not weaker than that of a heavenly being. Interesting. The human emperor revealed some interest on his face, but there was only a solemn look in his eyes. Rumble! In the great Zhao 13 prefectures, Providence rose and a true dragon that was hundreds of thousands of feet long soared into the sky. The deafening dragon roar resounded throughout the world. Then, the true dragon was born and turned into a vast heavenly court. The human emperor sat on the throne and a vast aura swept through the world. "From today onwards, I am the emperor of heaven." Immediately after, the human emperor looked at Marquis Beiyun and Qin Shijian and said, "Are the 2 of you willing to be the divine generals of the heavenly court?" "Yes." Marquis Beiyun and Qin Shijian looked at each other and immediately bowed. "Good." The human emperor waved his hand and endless power fell on the 2 of them. He said, "Today, the 2 of you will be the divine generals of the heavenly court." Then, the human emperor took out a stone spear and nailed it directly into the heavenly court. Suddenly, the originally illusory heavenly court suddenly became solid. An even more vast and endless power spread out from it, enough to crush the heavens and the earth. In the demon court, Zai Xing shouted coldly, "Generals, listen to my orders, kill!" As soon as he finished speaking, many divine generals of the demon court immediately charged towards the human emperor. The human emperor sat still and said in a deep voice, "Kill!" compared to the many divine generals of the demon race. On the heavenly court side, there were only Marquis Beiyun and Qin Shijian. However, at this moment, with the support of the heavenly court's mighty power, Qin Shijian found that his power had expanded to an extremely exaggerated level. There should only be 366 star acupoints in his body, but at this moment, he opened up 10,800 acupoints. Endless power surged from his body, and an aura that could crush the galaxy also spread. As soon as the human emperor finished speaking, Qin Shijian took a step forward and blasted out a heavenly cloud god sealing finger. A divine general of the demon court who was not weaker than a heavenly being directly exploded in front of this power. "Kill!" At this moment, Qin Shijian himself could not predict what level his power had reached. Sage. Mighty figure. And he was at the peak of the mighty figure. Qin Shijian was not sure, nor did he want to delve into it. The 10,800 star acupoints open gave him the terrifying strength to crush other heavenly beings. As for Marquis Beiyun, it was the same. Although there were only 2 divine generals of the heavenly court, compared to them, the divine generals of the demon court were no match at all. In the demon court, Zai Xing's expression was ugly. Although he had produced many divine generals of the demon court, they could not contend against Qin Shijian and Marquis Beiyun. If this continued, he would be in a very awkward situation. Thinking of this, Zai Xing shouted angrily, "Is there a divine general of the demon race? I was a divine general! I was a divine general! I was a divine general!" Many of the demon clan members below shouted. Zai Xing scanned with his divine will, and in an instant, several demon king-level powerhouses appeared in the demon court. Immediately after, infinite power descended, and the demon kings revealed their true forms, and a fierce power swept in all directions. As for the divine generals of the demon court, at this moment, they had completely become nourishment for these demon kings. When Qin Shijian saw this, he took out the cosmic bow and the cloud-piercing arrow. When he drew the bow and arrow, the 10,800 star acupoints in his body vibrated together, and a river of stars flowed in his body, and a terrifying power condensed in it. In the next second, his fingers loosened. The cloud-piercing arrow tore through the void in an instant, leaving an indelible black line in the sky. Boom! A demon king who had just endured the power directly exploded under this arrow. It was a sudden change. This made many monster kings set their eyes on Qin Shijian. Suddenly, a sky-reaching giant ape stepped on the void and charged at Qin Shijian. A heaven-reaching ape. How could Qin Shijian be unfamiliar with this race? However, the heaven-reaching ape in front of him was completely different from the heaven-reaching ape he had seen before. A 10,000-foot-long heaven-reaching ape could crush the void with a single punch. Celestial phenomenon. Extraordinary physical body. Qin Shijian's body also became 10,000 foot long, and immediately fought with the heaven-reaching ape. Boom! Boom! There were a total of 8 demon kings who attacked this time. 4 of them blocked Qin Shijian and Marquis Beiyun, while the remaining 4 stepped into the heavenly court and charged towards the human emperor. Now that the power of the demon court had deepened, these demon kings' hearts swelled. Although the human emperor's power was strong, in their eyes, it was no longer worth fearing. Destroy! The human emperor stretched out his hand, and a demon court divine general was directly crushed by him. Then, he stood up, and an unstoppable power swept out like a wave. Then, the human emperor left the throne and walked forward. With every step he took, the remaining 3 demon court divine generals' bodies trembled. When he took the 7th step, the 3 demon court divine generals exploded. At this point, the 4 demon court divine generals had all been destroyed. In contrast, the power of the heavenly court seemed to have become more illusory. The human emperor easily crushed the 4 demon court divine generals, then stood at the top of the heavenly court, looked at Zai Xing on the throne in front of him, and said, "Do you dare to fight me? Today, I am the demon emperor. Why wouldn't I dare?" Zai Xing laughed heartily and stood up from his throne. In the next moment, the 2 sides fought. At this moment, there were still demons entering the demon court and transforming into demon court divine generals, wanting to occupy the heavenly court. Qin Shijian joined forces with Marquis Beiyun to intercept all the demon court divine generals who rushed over. The 13-grade golden lotus swayed, and Qin Shijian's 10,000-foot-long body could shatter the bodies of the demon court divine generals with every punch, causing them to retreat continuously. But at the same time, there were also demons' attacks that landed on his body, causing his body to be stained with blood. However, Qin Shijian did not retreat at all. Now, he realized that this was a good time to harvest the source of life. Every demon court divine general that he killed could contribute at least hundreds of millions of life sources. Usually, how could there be so many heavenly humans for him to kill? Moreover, ordinary heavenly humans could not contribute so much life sources. In his eyes, the demon court divine generals that were constantly surging over were already a walking source of life. It was fine as long as he did not die. This time, following behind the human emperor and Marquis Beiyun, Qin Shujian did not expect that there would be such a huge harvest waiting for him. Kill! Qin Shujian roared angrily, and a surge of fighting spirit rose from his body. This kind of power that could collapse space with a raise of his hand did not make him lose himself. Instead, it made his fighting spirit erupt, and his strength increased to an unimaginable level. On the other side, Marquis Bayun's battle was much more elegant. However, the great underworld dark heavens still gave people a feeling that it was unstoppable. As for the upper part, it was the battlefield where the human emperor and Zexing were fighting. The current Zexing, with the heavenly demon temple as his foundation, had gathered the destiny of the entire demon race, and was much more terrifying than the demon king at his peak. Even the human emperor had to treat the power that he displayed with caution. After all, this was the demon race's home ground. Although the human race's destiny was vast, they did not have much of an advantage in the demon race's home ground. As the two of them raised their hands, the sky cracked. Terrifying shockwaves spread out, causing all the experts who felt this power to tremble. This was a battle. Although it only happened in the depths of the endless mountain range, however, even the humans could sense the powerful energy fluctuations and the commotion. However, no one knew what was happening to the demon race now. This was because only Marquis Bayun and Qin Shujian knew that the human emperor had entered the endless mountain range. Other than them, no one else knew. After an unknown period of time, the demon court's divine generals kept attacking, while Qin Shujian and Marquis Bayun retreated. No matter how strong the two of them were, they were only two people. On the demon court's side, there were divine generals constantly replenishing their numbers. In this regard, it was already not easy for the two of them to last until now. As the demon court's divine generals attacked the heavenly court, the vast heavenly court suddenly shook and was gradually eroded by the demon court. As the demon court eroded, Zexing's power steadily increased, while the human emperor's power gradually declined. Human emperor, this time, you can't destroy the demon race after all! Zexing laughed out loud and attacked again. He finally blocked the human emperor's attack and did not retreat. On the other hand, the human sovereign's expression was indifferent as he continued to bombard Zexing with his power. However, Zexing was able to withstand it. All of a sudden, the stone spear that was suppressing the heavenly court suddenly moved and was pulled out. As the stone spear was pulled out, the heavenly court instantly collapsed. Then, the human emperor held the stone spear with one hand and said coldly, "If you can take this move of mine, I'll forget about today's matter." As soon as he finished speaking, the stone spear pierced out, shattering heaven and earth. Zexing roared, raised the heavenly demon temple with one hand, and blasted at the stone spear in a tyrannical manner. The two collided. The terrifying aftermath spread out. Wherever it passed, the space was destroyed inch by inch, turning into endless black. But soon, the shattered space was automatically repaired by heaven and earth. Under one attack, the two stood on the left and right. The human emperor's heavenly court collapsed, while the demon court on Zexing's side was vast. At this moment, the outcome of this confrontation was already clear. The human emperor did not care about his defeat. He chuckled and said, "The demon race's foundation is indeed good. Today I have seen it. In a few days, when the human army arrives, I will compete with the demon race again." After that, he waved his hand and forced all the demon court's divine generals to retreat. Then, he looked at Qin Shujian and Marquis Bayun. "It's almost time. It's time to go." Now, with the collapse of the heavenly court, the power that was originally on his body was also declining at a speed visible to the naked eye. Qin Shujian sensed that out of the 10,800 acupoints he had opened in his body, no less than 5,000 had been destroyed in the span of 2 breaths. Moreover, this speed was still continuing. Looking at the many divine generals on the demon court's side, he did not dare to stay for too long, and went directly behind the human emperor. With the support of the heavenly court, Qin Shujian was confident that he could fight to the death with the divine generals of the demon court. But now, he did not have such thoughts anymore. What a joke! Without the support of the heavenly court, he was just a small cultivator at the first level of the heaven realm. Even if he had a 13th grade golden lotus, it would not be of much use. One could understand just by looking at the many divine generals of the demon court. If a fight really broke out, with his current strength, he would be drowned by the other party. As for Marquis Baiyun, he also returned behind the human emperor. Without Zhe Xing's order, these divine generals of the demon court did not dare to rashly step forward. The human emperor stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Zhe Xing and the many divine generals of the demon court. Suddenly he shook his head and laughed before turning to leave. He was clearly the loser. But he did not look like a loser at all. This time, the human emperor came only to test the foundation of the demon race. If the demon race was really weak, then he would destroy them. However, judging from the current situation, the foundation of the demon race was as deep as ever. If he wanted to destroy the demon clan alone, it would only result in a lose-lose situation for both sides. Therefore, the human emperor did not intend to fight the demon race head-on now because there was no need. When the human army gathered and attacked the demon race again, with the current strength of the demon race, it would be impossible for them to resist. The human emperor left. He left very decisively. As for Qin Shujian and Marquis Baiyun, they just followed behind the human emperor. Qin Shujian was not very clear about what Marquis Baiyun was thinking. But for himself, he was afraid that if he was a step slower, he would be torn apart by the angry demon race. If the human emperor left too quickly and left him here, then the situation would be a little awkward. When the three of them left, the demon court that was originally maintained also collapsed in vain. The body of the demon emperor that Zhe Xing had transformed into collapsed, and all the divine generals of the demon court were also beaten back to their original forms at this moment. In this battle, although the demon race had defeated the human emperor, many experts had died in battle. On the other hand, the human emperor retreated unscathed. Such a comparison made the hearts of many demon race experts heavy. Even the human emperor was like this. If the human army really arrived, then what could the demon race use to resist? Immediately, many demon race experts thought of the heavenly demon temple. Now, the only one who could resist the human army was the heavenly demon temple. On the other side, in the heavenly demon temple, of the original 8 demon saints, 6 of them had already exhausted their strength and turned into bones. The only 2 demon saints left were Zhe Xing and Ape Xing. They were both demon saints. Their foundation was stronger than the other demon saints, and because of this, they were not sucked dry by the heavenly demon temple. But even so, the 2 demon saints were not in good condition. Their flames of light were dim and on the verge of extinguishing at any time. Xingtian is still as strong as ever. Zhe Xing looked at the 6 fallen demon saints and finally looked at Zhe Xing with a wry smile. If the human race has Xingtian, which clan can stop the glory of the human race? Ape Xing's voice was weak, and the light in his eyes was dim. He was going to die. Zhe Xing was going to die too. In this battle, the heavenly demon temple's foundation was exhausted. On the surface, it seemed that they had won, but in reality, they had suffered a crushing defeat. Chapter 491. He was like a lamp that had run out of fuel. This was the state of Zhe Saint and Ape Saint. Originally, the 12 demon sages had to join forces to maintain the heavenly demon temple's expenditure. Now there were 4 less demon saints. It was reasonable for him to end up in such a situation. What surprised them was that the other demon saints had died so quickly. Among them, it was not because the human sovereign was stronger that the heavenly demon temple's strength was rapidly depleted. The ape saint's eyes dimmed as he said in a low voice, "He became a celestial being 15,000 years ago and became a demon saint 7,000 years ago. Until now, he never had the chance to break through to the peak. Now that he's dead, it's a good thing. Demons have long lifespans. For the human race, even the peak of the celestial being realm would only be around 7,000 years. However, for the Yao clan, once they broke through to the celestial realm, they would have no problem living for tens of thousands of years. However, no matter how long one's lifespan was, there would be a day when it would be exhausted. Relatively speaking, the demon race gained a long lifespan, but they paid a price in terms of talent. For the human race, those with good talent would be able to step into the celestial being realm in a few hundred years, and they would have the opportunity to become almighty in 1 or 2,000 years. But in the Yao clan, even those with great talent would need a few thousand years to break through to the celestial level. If it was a mighty figure, it would take at least a few thousand years or even more than 10,000 years. Both had their advantages and disadvantages, and it was hard to say which was better. However, from the ape saint's perspective, even if a Rahuang did not show up, his current lifespan would only last 1 or 2,000 years at most. He couldn't break through the celestial limit. In that case, there was no way to break the shackles of lifespan. Hearing this, Zaixing shook his head and sighed. Breaking through the celestial limit is easier said than done. You and I don't even have the qualifications to reach the celestial pinnacle, so how can we talk about other things? Moreover, in the past generations of demon emperors, there was no lack of outstanding talents, but none of them had ever broken through the limits of celestial being. I originally thought that this path had been cut off, but I never thought that I would see Xingtian discover it today. So, the road is still there. In Zaixing's eyes, there was no doubt that Renhuang had broken through the celestial being limit. If the other party hadn't broken through the celestial being limit and ascended to the realm above the celestial being, it would have been impossible for him to wipe out all the demon sages in the heavenly demon temple in such a short time. Ape Sage said, Xingtian faked his death. Could it be that he really did it for our demon race? This time, he asked the question in his heart. Hearing this, Zaixing suddenly fell into silence. Could it be that the human emperor faked his death for the sake of the demon race? If it had been at the beginning, he would have answered Ape Sage's question with certainty. But now Zaixing didn't know how to answer. With the human emperor's current strength, even if the 12 sacred beasts were present, they might not be able to contend against him. Because they had Zhu Bing. The human sovereign also had Zhu Bing. If the other party wasn't doing this for the Yao race, then what was it for? He seemed to have thought of something. Zaixing's expression abruptly changed, and his life origin flame dimmed even more. I know what Xingtian's goal is. He wants to imitate the ancient heavenly court and gather the providence of all races to rebuild the supreme heavenly court. One! Ape Sage's heart shook when he heard that. Imitate the ancient times and rebuild the supreme heavenly court. Unlike the human race, whose inheritance was missing, the Yao race was a race that had been passed down since the ancient times. Their inheritance had always been extremely complete, and as a sacred beast, he knew a little about the ancient times. After recovering from his shock, Ape Sage smiled bitterly. So what if I know the human sovereign's goal? If we sacred beasts die today, when the human race's army arrives, what will we use to resist the human race? There are 50 great deaths and 49 heavenly divinations. Everything has a chance of survival. Let me calculate again. Zaixing took out a pill out of nowhere and swallowed it. The originally dim flame of life, at this time, glowed again, and it was even brighter than before. Seeing this scene, Ape Sage's heart was filled with sorrow. What Zaixing did was to burn the last ray of life. When this power could no longer be maintained, the other party would truly die. This method was irreversible. Zaixing closed his eyes and calculated. After a long time, he suddenly opened his eyes and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. The originally flourishing life origin flame dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, there was no sorrow on his face. Instead, there was a hint of joy. Zaixing's lips moved, and a message was sent to Ape Sage's ears. The life origin flame was completely extinguished, and a sacred beast had died. Roar! In the sky above the heavenly demon temple, A towering giant ape stood proudly in the sky and roared angrily. All Yao race above the heavenly demon temple, listen to my orders within an hour. Anyone who disobeys will be expelled from the Yao race. After saying that, the giant ape disappeared. Many Yao race members were still immersed in the power of the human sovereign, but when they heard this, they instantly sobered up and headed toward the heavenly demon temple. On the other side, Qin Shujian followed behind the human sovereign and left. When they reached the Liang Mountain spirit domain, the human sovereign stopped in his tracks. He, who had been following behind, had to stop as well. At this moment, Qin Shujian's expression was a little awkward. No matter what, he was still tailing the human sovereign. If he encountered a bad-tempered Yao race, it would be reasonable for him to attack directly. Although the possibility of the human sovereign attacking him was not high, it was hard to explain this matter. After thinking for a while, Qin Shujian spoke first before the human sovereign could speak. Previously, I saw an aura heading toward the sky and mountain range. I thought that the Yao race had sneaked into the human race and returned to report, so I followed in to see the situation. I didn't expect to meet your majesty. That's right, that was it. Sect Master Qin was just worried that the Yao race had sneaked into the human race and had some ulterior motives, so he went to take a look. As for the fact that someone had stepped over his head, he was indignant, and he wanted to get some benefits, so he followed them. It was impossible for that to happen. Hearing this, the human sovereign turned around to look at Qin Shujian and said with a faint smile, Sect Master Qin, you're wholeheartedly serving the human race. I'm very relieved. It's my duty, it's my duty. Qin Shujian smiled awkwardly. In front of the human sovereign, he couldn't show the aura that a heavenly demon should have. It couldn't be helped. The other party was too strong, so strong that it made people despair. Not to mention him, even Marquis Baiyun, who was beside him, didn't dare to disobey the human sovereign. In 7 days, the human race will officially attack the Yao race. Sect Master Qin, if you have any ideas, you can come along. One more heavenly demon will reduce the casualties for the human race. At the end of his words, the human sovereign's expression was solemn. Qin Shujian replied solemnly, Your Majesty, don't worry. As a member of the human race, I will definitely not stand by and watch. Well, I'll take my leave first. The human sovereign nodded, then took a step forward and turned into a stream of light to escape. As for Marquis Baiyun, he also looked at Qin Shujian and said with a smile, Sect Master Qin, if you have time, you can come to Zongyang City. Speaking of which, you and I haven't seen each other for a long time. I'll definitely see you next time. Okay, goodbye. After saying that, Marquis Baiyun also left with the human sovereign. Seeing that there was no one around, Qin Shujian quietly returned to the Yuan sect. No one knew that he had left, and no one knew that he had just participated in a great battle. The battle between the human sovereign and the Yao race was in the depths of the endless mountain range. It was the hinterland of the Yao race. Even if the commotion spread and attracted the attention of the human race experts, as long as they didn't go deep, they wouldn't find much. Not many people dared to go deep into the hinterland of the Yao race. The hinterland of the Yao race. That was the place where the strongest power of all the Yao race was gathered. Even if a mighty figure went deep, he might not be able to walk out. Therefore, no matter how big the commotion in the Yao race was, no one from the human race would investigate. The sky was bright. Qin Shujian was in the forbidden area, counting his gains. This time, he had killed a total of countless demon court divine generals, and his life source had directly soared to 30 billion points. But unfortunately, his life source had reached 30 billion points, but the Guiyuan ancestral cannon didn't have a plus sign that could be upgraded. Regarding this, Qin Shujian felt a little regretful. Apart from that, there were no other practical gains. Although some of the incarnations of the demon court divine generals were indeed great demons and demon kings, the battle was chaotic at that time. Even if they killed the enemies, they didn't have time to collect the spoils of war. Therefore, Qin Shujian didn't gain much after abandoning 30 billion points of life source. No, there's still one more gain. He focused his attention on himself. Currently, more than half of the 10,800 star acupoints had collapsed, leaving only 366 star acupoints still there. These 366 star acupoints were originally opened by Qin Shujian himself. Previously, I opened up 10,800 star acupoints because of the power of the heavenly court. However, when this power disappeared, these star acupoints all collapsed. However, although the acupoints are gone, the enlightenment from back then hasn't completely dissipated. Perhaps I can use this opportunity to open up some acupoints. Observing the changes in his body, Qin Shujian's expression changed. Then, he closed his eyes as he recalled the state of his body, as well as the locations of the various stellar acupoints that had been opened. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth swept over. When a celestial being cultivated, even a breath could trigger a vast amount of spiritual energy. Cold Mountain Spirit Region. When Fang Xinglan passed through the teleportation gate and entered Cold Mountain City, he saw the huge vortex in the sky in front of him. Every breath has its own astronomical changes, attracting spiritual energy from all directions. As expected of a celestial being powerhouse. This scene stunned him, and there was a trace of envy in his eyes. Celestial being. He had been searching for it for many years. Even Fang Xinglan himself didn't know if he could break through to the celestial being level in his lifetime. If he couldn't. As a great cultivator at the peak of the divine martial arts realm, his lifespan was about to come to an end. However, regarding these matters, Fang Xinglan had already become much more indifferent. He no longer had the thought of forcing himself to break through to the celestial being realm. If he could take the opportunity to peak at the second stage of the Master Realm, he might be able to leave some inheritances for the Heavenly Array sect. Leaving Cold Mountain City, Fang Xinglan walked straight towards Yuanzhong. When he arrived at the mountain gate, he saw the black-robed man sitting cross-legged beside the mountain gate's stone tablet. Jiangfeng? Fang Xinglan frowned, and a name appeared in his heart. The news that Heavenly Corpse Jiangfeng had been refined by Yuanzhong was no longer a secret. Others knew the origin of the black-robed man, and so did the Heavenly Array sect. Although he knew Jiangfeng's origin, he didn't have any other thoughts. The current Jiangfeng was no longer the sect master of the Heavenly Corpse sect. Jiangfeng was already dead. What still existed now was merely a heavenly corpse. At this moment, Fang Xinglan stood in front of Yuanzhong's mountain gate without moving. He didn't deliberately release his aura, but he didn't deliberately hide it either. He believed the powerhouses in Yuanzhong wouldn't be unable to sense his existence. Inside Yuanzhong, Niu Feng was silently cultivating when he suddenly felt the existence of an unfamiliar aura outside the mountain gate. Although this aura wasn't strong, it was extremely vast and deep. Could there be an invasion? Niu Feng opened his eyes, and a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. There was an invasion, but he wasn't too nervous. Qin Shujian had returned to the sect, and Yuanzhong was now at its peak. Even if a celestial being powerhouse came, they wouldn't be able to gain any benefits. Moreover, Niu Feng didn't feel any malice from this aura. Thinking of this, he directly left the place where he was cultivating in seclusion and walked towards the mountain gate. Outside the mountain gate, Fang Xinglan also felt an aura approaching. Peak spiritual martial force? His eyes flickered slightly. Soon, Niu Feng appeared in his line of sight. I wonder which expert has come to my Yuanzhong. Please tell me your name. Fang Xinglan of the Falling Moon Mansion Sky Array sect is here to pay my respects to sect leader Qin. Fang Xinglan cupped his hands and said loudly. Falling Moon Mansion Sky Array sect. Hearing this, Niu Feng's expression also changed. As a top sect, how could he not have heard of the Sky Array sect's name? As for Fang Xinglan's name, it was also like thunder in his ears. In the cultivation world, Fang Xinglan was considered to be one of the top few. He was a well-deserved powerhouse, Although Niu Feng didn't know what relationship Qin Shujian had with the Sky Array sect, since Fang Xinglan had come to pay his respects, he had no reason to reject him. So it's Elder Fang. I am Yuan Zong's elder Niu Feng. Please follow me up the mountain. Thank you. Fang Xinglan nodded. Then, the two of them entered Yuan Zong, one on the left and one on the right. Along the way, Niu Feng turned his head to look at Fang Xinglan and asked, Elder Fang, are you here to see the sect leader? Yes. That might be a little unfortunate. The sect leader is currently cultivating in seclusion. I'm afraid he might not be able to come out in time. Cultivating in seclusion? Fang Xinglan was stunned for a moment. This answer surprised him. Niu Feng smiled and said, The sect leader has always been obsessed with cultivation. He usually doesn't have much time to come out of seclusion. At this point, he paused for a moment and continued, However, there are still 3 days. My sect has some matters to attend to. The sect leader should come out of seclusion during this time. I see. Fang Xinglan suddenly understood. As for the matter that Niu Feng was talking about, he knew what it was without thinking. It was nothing more than opening a spatial secret realm. This was also the reason why he came this time. After leading Fang Xinglan to the inherited martial hall, Niu Feng took out his communication jade token and sent out the news of the other party's arrival. Then, he waited for Qin Shujian's reply. Inside the forbidden area, Qin Shujian was cultivating the Guiyuan Ancestral Classic. Now, every level required a lot of life force. It wasn't easy to rely on life force to improve the cultivation technique. The further he progressed, the more life force he would need. At that level, it might not be as fast as him cultivating by himself. Rumble! As the massive amount of spirit qi of heaven and earth poured in, the qi and blood in his body surged and turned into a dazzling river of stars that continuously charged at the next occupant. Although the Guiyuan Ancestral Classic had 3 characteristics. Among them, the constellation manifestation body was the most important cultivation method. As for the impenetrable body and the red lotus of purgation, they were all derived methods and weren't considered the orthodox cultivation method. Therefore, as long as he focused on the constellation manifestation body and continuously opened up the constellation acupoints, his cultivation realm would increase accordingly. After opening up 72 constellation acupoints, he would be able to advance to the first level of the heaven-human realm. After opening up 365 Zhou-Tian acupoints, he would be at the peak of the first level of the heaven-human realm. After opening up 512 constellation acupoints, he would officially step into the second level of the heaven-human realm. The realm that Qin Shujian was in now, it was between the peak of the first level of the heaven-human realm and the second level of the heaven-human realm. His strength was stronger than the first level of the heaven-human realm, but weaker than the second level of the heaven-human realm. As the cultivation method continued to operate, the spirit qi of heaven and earth and the surroundings was also drawn in more and more. However, qi and blood kept charging at that acupoint, but he still couldn't open it. Not enough spirit qi! Qin Shujian opened his eyes helplessly. Although the absorption of spirit qi of heaven and earth in the heaven-human realm was very fast, there was a necessary prerequisite. That was, there had to be enough spirit qi in the surroundings. The origin sect was located in the spirit zone, so the spirit qi was naturally not weak. However, it wasn't easy to reach the heaven-human realm. Qin Shujian didn't intend to spend a lot of time gathering spirit qi. After all, it was time to open the space mystic realm in 3 days. Immediately, he took out 365 spirit stones from his storage ring and arranged them around himself in the Zhou Tian formation. Immediately after, a terrifying amount of spiritual qi was extracted from the spirit stone. In an instant, the color of the 365 spirit stones dimmed, and all the spirit qi was sucked out in an instant. At the same time, in Qin Shujian's body, the qi and blood star river flowed, and a vast force kept charging in his body. The acupoints that were originally closed were trembling violently, as if they were going to be opened at any time. Boom! 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 After countless attempts, a star acupoint trembled and opened. Then, the Qi and Blood Star River continued to charge toward the second star acupoint. From the outside world, Qin Shujian sat cross-legged and didn't move for a full day before he ended this cultivation. When the spirit Qi of the spirit stones was exhausted, he opened his eyes again and checked the condition of his body. I opened 30 star acupoints, but I consumed more than 300 spirit stones. Now, the number of star acupoints in his body had increased from 366 to 396. With the addition of 30 star acupoints, his strength naturally increased a little. However, Qin Shujian didn't intend to continue cultivating. The main reason was that there wasn't much time left. When his eyes fell on the dim spirit stones around him, there was a helpless look on his face. More than 300 spirit stones. If it were other people who cultivated, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to consume so much spirit Qi in their lifetime. But for a heavenly man, one extraction can suck all the spirit Qi out of all the spirit stones. Although these spirit stones will slowly recover their spirit Qi in the future, it's not easy to return to the state of being full again. In Qin Shujian's opinion, it would take at least 10 years for the depleted spirit stones to recover to their original state. The reason why the spirit stones had so much spirit Qi, to put it bluntly, it was because of the accumulation of spirit stones over time and finally established the status of spirit stones. Now that the spirit Qi was exhausted, it wouldn't be easy to replenish it. Qin Shujian originally thought that he was rich with more than 1,000 spirit stones. But now, if he used all these spirit stones for his own cultivation, they wouldn't last long. But on second thought, Qin Shujian also felt relieved. After breaking through to the heavenly man realm, every step of cultivation requires a lot of time. Although the cost of using spirit stones for cultivation is relatively high, the spirit stones can recover after a period of time. If you calculate it this way, your cultivation speed has actually increased by a large margin. Although the spirit stones were powerful, it wasn't to the extent of defying the natural order. It was already not easy to help a heavenly man realm cultivator to speed up the cultivation progress. Thinking of this, he felt much better. Then Qin Shujian got up and set up a spirit gathering formation around all the dried up spirit stones for these spirit stones to absorb spirit Qi. In this way, it would take at least 10 years for the spirit stones to recover. Then under the spirit gathering formation, this speed might be reduced by about half. Half of 10 years, that would be 5 years. If it was calculated carefully, this span was not small at all. After doing these things, Qin Shujian took out a communication jade token from the storage ring and read the message inside. Heavenly Array Sect Fang Xinglan? After receiving the message in the communication jade token, he raised his eyebrows. Speaking of Fang Xinglan, Qin Shujian was naturally familiar with him. Back then, when he was in the Flying Crane sect of the Fallen Moon Mansion, he had met him once. He was a powerful array master. Qin Shujian didn't know many array masters. But Fang Xinglan was absolutely in existence whose formation's Dao cultivation could be considered first or second among all the people he had encountered. Even Ming Jingshan was slightly inferior to the other party. However, the Heavenly Array sect is in the Fallen Moon Mansion. Although Fang Xinglan and I have met once, we don't have any friendship. It seems that he came to my Yuan sect at this time for the Space Secret Realm. Just thinking about it carefully, Qin Shujian roughly guessed what Fang Xinglan's purpose was. Now that the news of the Space Secret Realm had spread out, it was no longer limited to the Yuan sect. During this period of time, there were already many cultivators who came, hoping to observe the opening of the Space Secret Realm, but he didn't agree. Now that Fang Xinglan came over, 99% of the reason was because of this. After figuring out the other party's plan, Qin Shujian also had a faint smile on his face. The reason why he didn't agree when others wanted to observe was because these people didn't have much to gain. But the Heavenly Array sect was different. No matter what, they were still a top sect with a foundation that others couldn't compare to. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.